Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Ben 10 discovered the absolute Omnitrix and summoned the royal harem of Gwen, Kai, Julie, Ester, Attea, Looma, Charmcaster and Eunice. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Blank. Chapter 1. Convergence Protocol. The null void tasted like copper and regret. Ben Tennyson materialized through the dimensional portal, his boots hitting the floating asteroid with practiced ease. 21 years old and he still felt his stomach lurch during null void insertions. Some things never changed. The perpetual twilight of this prison dimension stretched endlessly, chunks of rock suspended in violet nothingness, connected by bridges of solidified energy that hummed beneath his feet. Coordinates confirmed, he muttered. Tapping the Omnitrix. The device pulsed green against his wrist, steady and familiar. Dimensional breach should be 3 clicks northeast. Rook, you reading me? Static answered. Of course. The null void played hell with communications. Ben started moving, his gait confident despite the unstable terrain. Years of experience taught him which energy bridges would hold and which would dissolve under weight. He'd stopped counting missions like this around year 3 of his plumber career. Routine dimensional maintenance, nothing glamorous. The kind of work that kept the universe functioning while other heroes got the spotlight. Not that he minded anymore. The breach shimmered ahead, a tear in reality leaking prismatic light across the asteroids. Ben frowned. Too organized. Dimensional breaches were chaotic by nature, random rips in space-time that needed sealing before something nasty crawled through. This one had geometric precision, almost architectural. Definitely not natural, he said to himself, a habit from too many solo missions. He approached cautiously, cycling through alien forms mentally. Jetray for mobility, Diamondhead for defense, Homungosaur for raw power. The Omnitrix gave him options, but picking the right one meant everything. Another lesson learned through years of mistakes. The breach pulsed, expanding slightly. Ben tensed, hand hovering over the Omnitrix dial. Then he saw what lay beyond. Holy shit. Through the tear, ancient architecture emerged. Not null void construction. This was Galvan work, unmistakable in its elegant complexity. Crystalline structures formed impossible angles, covered in the flowing script of Galvan Prime's first civilization. But this temple, if that's what it was, predated anything Ben had seen. Even in Azimuth's restricted archives. The breach stabilized, almost inviting. Every instinct screamed trap. Ben grinned and stepped through anyway. The temple interior defied physics. Walls curved upward and inward simultaneously, creating spaces that shouldn't exist within the visible dimensions. Soft bioluminescence emanated from the crystal, painting everything in shades of jade and silver. The air hummed with potential energy, making his teeth ache. At the chamber's center, suspended in a stasis field, floated a device. Ben's breath caught. The object resembled an Omnitrix, same basic structure, same dimensional engineering, but where his was green and white, this gleamed with colors that had no name. It shifted chromatic spectrum as he watched, showing hues human eyes weren't designed to perceive. Galvan text spiraled around the band in constantly rewriting equations. Azimuth never mentioned this. Ben circled the stasis field, examining the device from every angle. His SC, scientific training, hard-won through years of studying Galvan technology, kicked in. The energy signature alone registered off every scale he knew. This wasn't just advanced. This was fundamental. The stasis field flickered. Ben jumped back, hand snapping to his Omnitrix. No attack came. Instead, the field pulsed in sequence, following a pattern. Binary, but elevated. Galvan mathematical language in its purest form. He found himself translating automatically. Integrity, compromised, temporal, displacement, no, dimensional displacement. This thing's been here since. He calculated quickly. Before the null void was a prison. Before it was anything. The field pulsed again, faster. The device within rotated, its face turning toward Ben as though aware of his presence. Text scrolled across a small display screen. Words forming in English. Compatible genetic signature detected. Omnitrix wielder identified. Ben Tennyson. Initiating integration protocol. Wait, what? integration. Ben backed toward the entrance. But the temple had other ideas. Crystal walls flowed like liquid, sealing exits. No, no, no. I don't do mysterious alien tech anymore without reading the manual. Learned that lesson. The stasis field dissolved. The device dropped, hovering in midair through its own power, then shot toward Ben like a missile. He went Diamond Head mid-transformation, crystal armor erupting across his body. The device hit his wrist, his Omnitrix, and instead of shattering, it merged. Ben screamed as energy flooded his nervous system, every cell igniting with impossible data. His Diamond Head form couldn't maintain cohesion, fracturing back to human as the two devices became one. Pain gave way to everything. Ben felt the Omnitrix as never before. Not just a tool, but an extension of his consciousness. He sensed the genetic database. 10,809 distinct species, but beyond that, deeper layers revealed themselves. The fundamental forces the Omnitrix manipulated: biological structure, energy patterns, dimensional coordinates, temporal positioning, quantum states. The device on his wrist looked different. His standard Omnitrix had evolved, incorporating the ancient prototype's architecture. The faceplate displayed that impossible color-shifting gleam, and new symbols rotated around the dial. Not just alien species. These represented concepts: transformation, energy, time, dimension, reality. What? Ben's voice came out hoarse. What are you? Text appeared in his vision, projected directly onto his retina by the device. Absolute Omnitrix. Prototype designation AU-1. Primary function: reality anchoring and multiversal stabilization. Secondary function: unlimited genetic transformation. Tertiary function: fundamental force manipulation. Warning: integration complete. Psychic resonance initializing. Anchor points will converge on wielder position. Anchor points. What anchor points? The temple shuddered. Reality itself rippled outward from Ben's position. Waves of energy cascading through dimensions. He felt it happening, sensed the absolute Omnitrix sending out a signal across every possible timeline, every alternate reality, every divergent universe. Calling something, someone. The air before him tore open, not with the violence of the earlier breach but with surgical precision. A portal formed, and through it stepped a woman wreathed in magenta energy. Her red hair whipping in winds from another dimension. Ben. Gwen Tennyson's eyes blazed with mana, scanning the temple with immediate tactical assessment. What the hell did you do? The magical spectrum just went insane. I felt reality scream from Anodyne. Gwen. Ben blinked, disoriented. How did you? No idea. I was mid-meditation with Grandma Verdona, and suddenly I had to be here. Not wanted to be here. Had to be. Like my soul would tear itself apart if I didn't. She noticed the Omnitrix, eyes widening. That's not your normal watch. Long story. Short version. Ancient Galvan tech. Involuntary merger. Reality apparently having a crisis. Ben flexed his hand, feeling the absolute Omnitrix pulse with power. It said something about anchor points converging. I think I'm an anchor point. Gwen's mana flared unconsciously, responding to the Omnitrix's energy. I can feel it pulling at me, like we're connected on a quantum level. Before Ben could respond, another portal tore open. This one military grade, standard plumber insertion protocol. Kai Green emerged in full tactical gear, plasma rifle raised, scanning for threats with professional efficiency. Contact report came through scrambled, but I got enough, Kai said, not lowering her weapon. Dimensional anomaly, reality distortion, and Ben Tennyson at the epicenter. So basically Tuesday. Her dark eyes found his. And something in her expression shifted. Softened. Except I shouldn't be here. I was coordinating a team insertion 3 systems away. Then suddenly I was rerouting to these coordinates and nothing could stop me. Let me guess, Gwen said dryly. Had to be here or your soul would implode. Something like that. Kai finally lowered her rifle, moving closer to Ben. As she approached, her steps faltered. Anyone else feeling that? Ben felt it too, a resonance building between them, like tuning forks vibrating at the same frequency. Not painful, but intensely present. He could sense Gwen's magical energy, vast and precisely controlled, barely containing her worry beneath professional calm. Could feel Kai's disciplined mind, tactical subroutines running constantly. And underneath that a warmth she never showed on duty. Psychic resonance, Gwen breathed, recognizing the phenomenon. The Omnitrix is linking us. I can feel both of you in my head. Not thoughts exactly, but presence. Emotions. A fourth portal manifested, this one technological rather than magical or military. A sleek ship materialized partially through the breach, its hull flowing like liquid metal. Ship. Ben recognized immediately, which meant, Ben. Julie Yamamoto practically fell out of the ship's opening hatch, her business suit completely inappropriate for dimension hopping but somehow still stylish. Thank God. Ship started going crazy, saying he felt you in danger. We were halfway to a merger negotiation when he just changed course. I couldn't stop him even if I wanted to. Ship flowed down to surround Julie protectively, his metallic body rippling with concern. Ben. Danger. Feel wrong energy. Ship. Buddy, I'm okay. Ben raised his hands reassuringly, but even as he spoke, the resonance expanded to include Julie. Her presence felt different from the others, optimistic energy barely masking old hurt, business acumen calculating scenarios, and genuine joy at say. Him again fighting with uncertainty about where they stood. Julie gasped. What is that? I can feel all of you. Gwen's magic, Kai's intensity, and Ben, you're like a star about to go supernova. Anchor points, Gwen said. Understanding dawning. We're all connected to Ben across multiple timelines. Different versions of us, different realities, different possibilities. The absolute Omnitrix is using those connections. A fifth portal opened, this one rippling with heat distortion. Ester stepped through, her crystalline lava-based biology making the temple's temperature spike. She wore diplomatic robes of Kraho design. Formal and elegant, but her expression showed pure confusion. Ben Tennyson. Her voice carried the precise diction of galactic standard, though emotion bled through. I was representing my people before the Galactic Council. Mid-speech, I felt a pull toward you so strong I left without explanation. My career may be ruined, but I could not resist. What is happening? The psychic resonance incorporated her immediately. Ben felt Esther's passionate nature, her determination to prove her people's worth, her carefully hidden loneliness as one of the few Kraho in diplomatic service. And underneath, a warmth toward him she'd never fully expressed. 5 of them now, all connected, all staring at each other with varying degrees of confusion and understanding. Okay, Kai said, defaulting to tactical mode. Someone explain the situation in clear terms before more people start teleporting in. Ben took a breath, organizing his thoughts despite the overwhelming sensation of 4 other minds brushing against his consciousness. I found this temple in the null void. That device, he gestured to the absolute Omnitrix, merged with my Omnitrix. It's called an absolute Omnitrix. Designed for reality anchoring and multiversal stabilization. It sent out some kind of signal, and now you're all here, and we're psychically linked. Why specifically? Julie asked, then paused. Wait, I can feel the answer. We're all connected to you across timelines. Multiple versions of events where our lives intertwined with Ben's in different ways, Gwen confirmed. Her magical senses reading the resonance patterns. Timelines where I pursued magic with Ben as a partner, where Kai became his mission companion, where Julie remained his girlfriend, where Esther and Ben's relationship deepened. The absolute Omnitrix is tapping into quantum probability, pulling together the people most entangled with Ben across the multiverse. That is simultaneously fascinating and deeply uncomfortable, Esther said, unconsciously moving closer to the group. The resonance seemed to want them near each other. Kai frowned, accessing her tactical computer. If this device is designed for multiversal stabilization, that implies the multiverse needs stabilizing. What's the threat? As if answering her question, the temple shuddered violently. The crystal walls cracked, and through the fractures, reality itself became visible. The raw churning chaos beneath the universe's structure. Ben had seen dimensional rifts before, but this was different. This was wrongness on a fundamental level. Something's breaking reality, he said, knowledge flowing from the absolute Omnitrix directly into his mind. The timeline nexus, the structure that holds all realities together, is corrupted. If it fails, every universe collapses. The temperature in the temple plummeted. Frost formed on the crystal walls, spreading in patterns too geometric to be natural. The 5 of them moved instinctively into a defensive formation. Backs together, facing outward. The psychic resonance enhanced their coordination, letting them move as one unit without speaking. Then reality tore open completely, and something emerged. It defied description. The being, creature, entity, existed partially outside normal space, its form constantly shifting between dimensions. Where it manifested fully, it appeared as a mass of crystallized time. Fragments of different moments frozen and shattered, all orbiting a core of absolute darkness. Its presence made causality scream. The absolute Omnitrix flooded Ben's mind with information. Chronophage, timeline devourer, entity born from collapsed realities, feeding on the death of universes. Spread out. Kai's combat training overrode the shock. She opened fire, plasma bolts streaking toward the entity. They hit and passed through, existing in the wrong timeframe to make contact. Gwen's hands blazed with mana, complex spell formulae forming in the air. It's phasing through time. We need to anchor it in the present. I can help. Ester's body temperature spiked, lava flowing across her hands. If we can force it into physical form. The chronophage struck. A tendril of crystallized time lashed out, moving faster than perception. It would have impaled Kai, but Ben was already moving. He didn't consciously decide to transform, didn't select an alien form. The absolute Omnitrix responded to his need, flowing through him in a way the old device never had. He became XLR8, but enhanced. His speed didn't just let him move fast, he could see the timestream itself. Navigate between moments. Ben grabbed Kai, pulling her out of the attack's temporal coordinates entirely. To the others, they vanished and reappeared 3 feet left in the same instant. The hell? Kai gasped. New features, Ben said, his voice vibrating at hypersonic frequencies. Gwen, I need that anchor spell. Everyone else, keep it busy. Julie didn't hesitate. Ship, combat mode. Ship flowed around her, forming armor and weapons integrated with his living metal body. She launched into the air, firing energy blasts from angles the chronophage couldn't predict, forcing it to divide its attention. Ester created a wave of superheated lava, giving the entity physical matter to interact with. Where lava touched its form, the chronophage solidified slightly, pulled into the present moment. Kai coordinated their fire patterns with military precision, her tactical computer calculating optimal strike points. Concentrate fire on the lower left quadrant. It's manifesting most solidly there. Gwen wove her spell, pulling mana from the temple itself, from the ancient Galvan crystals still thrumming with power. The spell took shape, a mandala of pure magical force designed to lock targets in temporal stasis. Ben, I need you to deliver this directly to its core. Ben shifted forms again, the transformation seamless. Fast-track speed combined with Jetray's flight capability, another impossible hybrid. He grabbed the spell. It felt like holding solidified lightning, and accelerated toward the chronophage. The entity saw him coming. Crystallized time fragments launched like projectiles, each one a frozen moment weaponized. Ben dodged through them, his enhanced perception letting him see the attacks before they fully entered his timeframe. The psychic resonance WITH the others fed him information. Kai's tactical analysis, Gwen's magical calculations, Julie's 3-dimensional spatial awareness, Ester's passionate determination. He reached the core and thrust Gwen's spell into the darkness. The chronophage shrieked, a sound that existed across multiple frequencies and timelines simultaneously. The anchor spell took hold, forcing the entity fully into the present moment. It became solid, vulnerable, and absolutely enraged. Now, Ben shifted again, becoming Homungosaur at 3 times his normal size, courtesy of the absolute Omnitrix's enhancements. He grabbed the chronophage's main mass and hurled it toward the temple wall. Julie and Ship created a containment field. Ester flash froze her lava into a crystalline prison. Kai fired a plumber stasis grenade that expanded into an energy cage. Gwen layered binding spells over everything, her magic interweaving with the technology seamlessly. For a moment, it seemed to work. Then the chronophage simply stopped existing in that moment. It phased forward in time by 3 seconds, emerging outside every containment measure. Its counterattack came instantly, tendrils of crystallized time stabbing toward each of them simultaneously. The psychic resonance saved them. Ben felt the attack coming through the others' perspectives, saw it from 5 angles at once. Together, he shouted, not sure what he meant but knowing it was right. The five of them moved in perfect synchronization. Gwen erected a shield. Kai calculated the optimal defensive position. Julie and Ship provided mobility. Ester created a heat barrier. Ben channeled everything through the absolute Omnitrix. Their powers merged. Magical energy flowed through technological enhancements, amplified by biological abilities, coordinated by tactical precision, and unified by passionate determination. The absolute Omnitrix acted as a focal point, channeling all five of their capabilities into a single unified defense. The chronophage's attack shattered against it, but the entity was only testing them. It pulled back, and Ben felt its attention focus. Not on him, on the connection between them, on the psychic resonance itself. It understood. They were anchor points, keystones holding timelines together. If the chronophage could corrupt that connection, could turn their bond into a weapon. It's retreating, Kai called out. Gwen shook her head, her magical senses reading deeper. No, withdrawing. It learned what it wanted to know. The chronophage dissolved into temporal fragments, scattering across dimensions. Its presence faded, but its final message resonated in their minds through the psychic link. I know what you are. I know who you are. And I will feast on every timeline that contains you. Then it was gone, leaving only fractures in reality and the five of them breathing hard in the damaged temple. Well, Julie said into the silence, that was terrifying. Ship vibrated with concern, wrapping around her protectively. Ester's lava cooled, returning to its dormant crystalline state. Kai immediately began tactical assessment, cataloging their resource expenditure and combat effectiveness. Gwen's mana settled, but her eyes stayed sharp, analytical. Ben transformed back to human, feeling the absolute Omnitrix settle against his wrist. The psychic resonance remained, connecting all five of them in ways he was only beginning to understand. We need to leave, he said. This temple is collapsing, and we need answers. Real answers. Plumber base, Kai suggested. Ben nodded. Earth base. Somewhere we can regroup and figure out what the hell is happening. Gwen opened a portal, her magic cutting through dimensions with practiced ease. They moved through quickly, Julie and Ship first, then Ester, then Kai. Gwen waited, looking at Ben with an expression he couldn't quite read. You know this changes everything, she said quietly. Whatever this connection is, whatever the absolute Omnitrix did to us, we're in this together now. I know, Ben replied, and I have a feeling we're just getting started. They stepped through together, the temple collapsing into dimensional fragments behind them. The plumber base outside Bellwood hummed with activity. Aliens of a dozen species moved through corridors, managing the endless work of keeping the universe safe. Ben led his group to a private conference room, commandeering it with the authority his years of service granted. They'd barely sat down when Azimuth materialized via hologram, his ancient Galvan face showing an expression Ben had rarely seen, genuine shock. Ben Tennyson, Azimuth said slowly, explain to me how you activated a prototype that was supposed to be sealed in a dimensional dead zone for the rest of eternity. You know about the absolute Omnitrix? Ben asked. I created it, you fool. Azimuth's voice rose to what counted as shouting for him. 3,000 years ago, I designed the absolute Omnitrix as the ultimate tool for multiversal stabilization. Then I ran projections and realized it was too powerful, too dangerous. It didn't just transform the wielder. It rewrote reality around them, pulled quantum-entangled individuals across dimensions. Created psychic resonance networks that could be weaponized. I sealed it away and erased the location from every database. Missed one, Ben said. Null Void Temple had it. And it merged with my Omnitrix before I could stop it. Azimuth was silent for a long moment. Show me. Ben held up his wrist. The absolute Omnitrix gleamed, its impossible colors shifting through SP. Ectrums that made Azimuth's hologram flicker just processing them. By Galvan Prime, Azimuth breathed. The integration is complete. I couldn't separate them now without killing you. The absolute Omnitrix has woven itself into your genetic structure, your neural pathways, your quantum signature. What about us? Gwen asked. We were pulled to Ben involuntarily. We're psychically linked now. Azimuth's gaze swept over them. Gwen, Kai, Julie, Ester, and his expression grew grave. You're the anchor points. The absolute Omnitrix identifies individuals who are quantum entangled with its wielder across multiple timelines. It binds them together, creating a resonance network. In theory, this network can stabilize fragmenting realities, anchor collapsing timelines, and even repair damage to the fundamental structure of the multiverse. In theory, Kai caught the implication. What about in practice? In practice, I never tested it. The risks were too high. Azimuth's hologram flickered with what might have been anxiety. The psychic resonance creates unprecedented power, but also unprecedented vulnerability. If your connection is corrupted, if the network is turned against itself, it could accelerate reality collapse rather than prevent it. The chronophage, Ben said. That's what attacked us. It said it would feast on every timeline that contains us. Azimuth went very still. Describe this entity. Gwen provided the details, her magical knowledge giving precise terminology. Azimuth's expression grew darker with each word. A chronophage should not exist, Azimuth said finally. Why are theoretical entities born from completely collapsed timelines? If one manifests in our reality, it means the timeline nexus is already critically damaged. Can we stop it? Julie asked. The Absolute Omnitrix was designed for exactly this scenario, Azimuth admitted. But it requires more than 5 anchor points for full functionality. The network needs at least 8 individuals to create stable reality anchoring. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the base. Red lights flashed, and automated voices announced incoming ships. Ben rushed to the window, the others following, their PSYC. Hick resonance humming with shared concern. 3 ships approached. One bore the insignia of the Incursine Empire. Another displayed Tetraman War Clan symbols. The third pulsed with magic. Energy that made Gwen's mana react instinctively. This is going to get complicated, Kai muttered. The ships landed in the base's main hangar. Ben led the group down, already knowing what he'd find. The absolute Omnitrix pulsed against his wrist, confirming his suspicions. More anchor points had arrived. The Incursine ship's ramp descended, and Attea strode out with imperial confidence. She wore formal Empress regalia, but her hand rested casually on her weapon. Her eyes found Ben immediately, and something in her expression shifted, predatory interest mixed with confusion. Tennyson, she said, her voice carrying that aristocratic accent with its sarcastic edge. I was in the middle of reforming an empire when I suddenly had to redirect here. Since Incursine empresses don't do anything involuntarily, I'm extremely interested in hearing your explanation before I decide whether to kiss you or kill you. The psychic resonance expanded, incorporating Attea. Ben felt her cunning mind, her ambition tempered by genuine desire to be better than her father, and underneath everything, a loneliness she'd never admit to. Before Ben could respond, the Tetraman ship's hatch exploded outward. Looma Red Wind emerged, forearms flexing, her warrior's physique impressive even by Tetraman standards. Ben Tennyson, her voice boomed with warrior's pride. I was preparing for honorable combat when I felt a call to battle here. Is there a worthy challenge awaiting? The resonance added her to the network. Her presence felt like a forge fire, hot, intense, focused entirely on the concept of honor and strength. But beneath that, a curiosity about things beyond combat that her culture never encouraged. The magical ship opened last, and a woman stepped out wreathed in purple arcane energy. Charmcaster, Hope, Ben corrected himself, looked different from the last time he'd seen her. More settled, less desperate, but carrying deep scars of past mistakes. I felt reality screaming, she said quietly. Her voice poetic compared to her old sharp tones. I was rebuilding legerdemain when I sensed a magical signature so powerful it couldn't be ignored. Traced it to you, Ben. Should I be surprised? Her addition to the psychic resonance brought complexity. Ben felt layers of guilt, determination for redemption, artistic soul hidden beneath ruthless training, and a desperate hope that she could be more than her worst actions. 7 anchor points now. The resonance had evolved into something vast, a network of minds and hearts all connected through quantum entanglement and the absolute Omnitrix's power. Well, Attea said, looking around at the group with calculating eyes, this is quite the collection. Anyone want to explain why we're all here before the territorial instincts kick in? One more pulse from the absolute Omnitrix. One more anchor point materializing, but not through a ship. She simply appeared, her form constructed from technological data and genetic memory. Eunice stood before them, as solid and real as anyone else, but her eyes showed deep confusion. I was in the Galvan database. I shouldn't be able to leave it. I shouldn't be able to manifest physically anymore. But I felt something calling. And then I was here, and I'm real again. She looked at Ben, and her usual certainty cracked. What's happening to me? The eighth and final anchor point. The psychic resonance completed itself, forming a stable network that Ben felt snap into place like the final piece of a cosmic puzzle. Azimuth's hologram appeared in the hangar, surveying all 8 women now connected to Ben. Well, the Galvan said dryly, I suppose we'll find out if my theories work in practice after all. Theories. Attea's hand went to her weapon. I didn't come here to be part of an experiment. Too late, Gwen said, her magical senses reading the resonance network. We're all connected now. 8 anchor points, all quantum entangled with Ben across multiple timelines, all psychically bonded through that device. Quote, perhaps, said a new voice, one that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, I should provide clarification. Reality bent, not violently, but deliberately, carefully, as though the universe itself was being folded along specific creases. The space above them opened, and something descended. The being defied easy description. It existed partially outside normal dimensions, its form suggesting humanoid shape more through implication than actual structure. Where it became most solid, it appeared as a figure made of living mathematics. Equations flowing across its surface like blood through veins. I am Axiom, the being said, its voice harmonizing in frequencies that spoke directly to the soul. I am a celestial architect, one of those who maintain the structure of reality across all dimensions. And I bring dire news. The 8 women and Ben stood frozen, processing the appearance of a being whose mere presence made the plumber base feel insignificant. The timeline nexus is collapsing, Axiom continued. The structure that holds all realities together has been corrupted by the chronophage, an entity that should not exist. It feeds on collapsed timelines, growing stronger with each universe that dies. If it is not stopped, every reality across the infinite multiverse will cease to exist. And let me guess, Ben said, his voice steadier than he felt. We're supposed to stop it. You specifically, Axiom confirmed. The absolute Omnitrix was designed as a failsafe, a tool capable of anchoring realities and repairing timeline damage. But it requires a wielder and an anchor network. Ben Tennyson, you are the wielder. These 8 women are your anchor points, chosen by quantum entanglement across infinite possibilities. Why them? Eunice asked, her analytical mind processing rapidly. What makes us specifically qualified? You are the constants, Axiom explained, across the infinite variations of reality. In the timelines where Ben Tennyson exists, you 8 appear most frequently in positions of importance to him. Friend, lover, rival, ally, the specific relationship varies, but the connection remains constant. You are quantum entangled with him across the multiverse, making you the strongest possible anchors for reality stabilization. Kai's tactical mind cut through the metaphysics. What's the mission timeline? The chronophage will strike at the next major convergence point, a place where multiple timelines intersect, Axiom said. That convergence occurs in 72 hours. If the chronophage succeeds in collapsing those timelines, the cascade effect will be irreversible. All realities will fall. 72 hours to save every reality that exists, Looma said, grinning fiercely. Finally, a worthy challenge. This is insane, Julie muttered, but Ship hummed in agreement with the mission, already calculating logistics. Attea looked at Ben with her calculating gaze. If I'm understanding correctly, we're stuck in this network whether we like it or not. The chronophage will target us specifically because we're anchor points. Fighting together is our only option. I have fought alone before, Charmcaster said softly, and it brought only destruction. Perhaps this time I try something different. Ester's diplomatic training kicked in. We should establish clear communication, assign roles based on our capabilities, and create operational protocols. Gwen's mana flared as she processed everything. The psychic resonance, it's not just a vulnerability. It's our greatest strength. If we can learn to use it properly, to coordinate perfectly, we could be unstoppable. But first, Ben said, feeling the weight of 8 minds connected to his, we need to actually talk. Figure out how to work together, how to manage this connection, how to not drive each other crazy. Eunice tilted her head, studying the group. We're from different backgrounds, different cultures, different species in some cases. Some of us have history with Ben, some with each other. This will be complicated. Complicated is my specialty, Ben said with a slight grin, though the confidence was hard-won. He'd grown a lot from the cocky kid who first put on the Omnitrix, learned to handle impossible situations and coordinate disparate teams. But this was on another level entirely. Axiom's form began to fade. Its purpose completed. You have 72 hours. I suggest you use them wisely. The fate of infinite realities rests on your success. The celestial architect vanished, folding back into whatever higher dimension it called home. The hangar fell silent except for the base's ambient hum and the distant sounds of plumber operations. 8 women and 1 man, all psychically bonded. All necessary to prevent the collapse of every reality, all trying to process what their lives had just become. Attea broke the silence first. Well, this is going to be the greatest alliance or the most spectacular disaster in multiversal history. She looked at the other women, her eyes sharp. Perhaps both. We should establish a base of operations, Kai said, defaulting to tactical planning. Somewhere we can coordinate, train together, and prepare for the chronophage's next attack. The plumber base has facilities, Ben offered, but we'll need specialized equipment. Magical resources for Gwen and Charmcaster, diplomatic channels for Ester and Attea, combat training areas for Kai and Looma, technical labs for Julie and Eunice. And privacy, Gwen added quietly, her eyes finding Ben's. We need to figure out this psychic connection without an audience. It's intimate, more than I think anyone's comfortable with yet. The others nodded, feeling the truth of it. The resonance hummed constantly in the background of their minds, sharing emotions and presence in ways that stripped away normal social boundaries. Conference room, Ben decided. Just us. We'll tell the plumbers we're handling a classified multiversal threat, which is technically true, and we need operational security. They moved as a group, and Ben noticed how the psychic resonance affected their movement. They naturally positioned themselves in a formation, unconsciously spacing for optimal tactical coverage. Kai and Looma took flanking positions. Attea and Gwen positioned for ranged support. Julie, Ester, and Charmcaster filled supporting roles. Eunice moved with analytical precision, calculating optimal positioning. And Ben found himself at the center, the focal point they all oriented around. Inside the conference room, they settled around a large table. The door sealed, privacy fields activated, and for the first time since the convergence began, they had a moment to actually process. All right, Ben said, looking around at 8 incredibly different women, all connected to him in ways he was only beginning to understand. I know this is strange and invasive and probably terrifying. I didn't plan any of this. The absolute Omnitrix chose you, not me. But we're in this together now, and I need to know, are you with me? Because I can't save infinite realities alone. Gwen spoke first, her voice soft but firm. We're family, Ben. I've always been with you, even when we were fighting. This doesn't change that, it just makes it more complicated. I'm a soldier, Kai said. I follow the mission. And this mission is the most important one in existence. I'm in. Julie exchanged a look with Ship, who hummed supportively. My company has resources across multiple systems. Whatever you need, I can probably get it. And I never really stopped caring, Ben. Even after we broke up. So yes, I'm with you. Ester's crystalline features showed determination. My people are part of the galactic community now. If reality collapses, they collapse with it. I will fight to prevent that. And I find that I trust you, Ben Tennyson. More than I expected. Attea leaned back, her calculating gaze never leaving Ben. I'm an empress. I don't follow. I led. But in this case, our interests align. The chronophage threatens my empire along with everything else. So consider me a very interested ally. With benefits to be negotiated. Looma's 4 fists clenched with anticipation. You promised me a worthy challenge when we first met, Ben Tennyson. This battle will prove our strength together. I am honored to fight beside you. Charmcaster. Hope. Looked haunted but determined. I've destroyed so much trying to bring back what I lost. Maybe this is my chance to actually save something. To be the person I should have been. I'm with you, Ben. Don't make me regret it. Eunice was silent for a long moment, processing with her analytical mind. I don't know if what I feel is real or programmed. I don't know if I'm truly alive or just a very sophisticated imitation. But I know I choose to be here. I choose to help. That has to count for something. Ben felt emotion swell in his chest, amplified by the psychic resonance so that all of them felt it too. Gratitude, determination, and something deeper he wasn't ready to name yet. Thank you, he said simply. All of you. We've got 72 hours to prepare for a battle that will decide the fate of existence itself. So let's get to work. They began planning, 8 brilliant minds coordinating through psychic resonance. And Ben realized that despite the impossible situation, despite the cosmic stakes, despite everything that could go wrong, he believed they could actually win. Chapter 2. Fractured Realities. Dawn crept through the reinforced windows of the Plumber facility's residential wing, painting geometric shadows across unfamiliar walls. Ben sat cross-legged on the floor of his assigned quarters, palms resting on his knees, trying to meditate like Gwen had taught him years ago. The absolute Omnitrix pulsed against his wrist in rhythm with his heartbeat, or maybe his heartbeat had synchronized to it. Hard to tell anymore. Harder still to quiet his mind when 8 other consciousnesses hummed at the edge of his awareness. Not thoughts exactly. The psychic resonance didn't work like telepathy. More like presence. Emotional weather patterns. He could feel Gwen 3 rooms down, already awake, her mana cycling through morning exercises that tasted like cinnamon and electricity. Kai was running combat drills in the training facility, her mind sharp as folded steel, focused entirely on optimizing reaction times. Julie's presence felt distant. She'd returned to her ship in orbit, probably working through business complications with that peculiar mix of anxiety and determination that characterized her entrepreneurial spirit. The others were sleeping, mostly. Ester's consciousness flickered with dreams of volcanic landscapes and diplomatic chambers. Attea's mind even in sleep maintained predatory awareness, ready to wake at the slightest threat. Looma dreamed of battles, unsurprisingly. But underneath ran currents of something gentler she'd never acknowledge awake. Charmcaster's sleep was restless, haunted by memories she couldn't outrun. Eunice didn't sleep, didn't need tea. Oh, but had entered a meditative state analyzing terabytes of data about timeline mechanics. Ben exhaled slowly, trying to center himself. 24 hours since the convergence. 48 hours Rima, Eining until the chronophage's predicted attack. And he still hadn't fully grasped the scope of what the absolute Omnitrix had made him responsible for. You're broadcasting, Gwen's voice came from his doorway, followed immediately by her presence in the room. She wore comfortable workout clothes, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and carried 2 cups of coffee. Your anxiety is leaking through the resonance. I could taste it from my room. Taste it. Ben accepted the coffee gratefully, gesturing for her to sit. Everyone experiences the resonance differently. Gwen settled onto tea, he floor across from him with fluid grace. I process it through magical senses, so emotions have flavors, textures. Your worry tastes like burnt copper. Kai's determination feels like tempered steel. Attea's ambition has this edge like expensive wine mixed with poison. That's extremely specific. Ben sipped the coffee. Perfect temperature, exactly the right amount of sugar. Gwen had been making his coffee for years. How are you handling this? The connection, I mean. It's invasive. Invasive, Gwen repeated, her green eyes studying him with that analytical intensity she brought to everything. Yes, also necessary. Also, she hesitated, vulnerability flashing across her features before her usual control reasserted itself. Also not entirely unwelcome. We've always been connected, Ben. This just makes it literal instead of metaphorical. The psychic resonance pulsed between them, carrying undertones Ben wasn't quite ready to examine. He changed the subject. Azimuth sent the analysis overnight. The timeline fractures are accelerating. 3 major breaks manifested in the last 6 hours. I know. I read the report. Gwen's fingers traced patterns in the air unconsciously, leaving faint mana trails. Legerdemain. The Inkerseen border territories, and Kraho Prime. 3 completely different types of fractures requiring 3 different approaches. We'll have to split up, Ben said, hating the tactical necessity. Cover more ground. Address multiple threats simultaneously. You hate splitting the party, Gwen observed with a slight smile. You've said that exact fra. Say on approximately 247 missions. You counted. I count everything. Her smile faded into something more serious. But you're right. We need to divide our resources intelligently. The question is how to group us for maximum effectiveness while maintaining the anchor network's stability. Ben pulled up a holographic display from his plumber-issue wrist computer, overlay in. G it with data from the absolute Omnitrix. The resonance has range limitations. Azimuth's analysis suggests we can operate in 3 groups without destabilizing the network, as long as we maintain periodic synchronization. Team composition based on skill sets and interpersonal dynamics, Gwen said, already running calculations. Legerdemain is a magical fracture. Needs magical expertise. You and Charmcaster, Ben said. Which means I should come too. The absolute Omnitrix can interact with magical energy in ways the normal Omnitrix couldn't. The Incursine border is military and political, Gwen continued. Kai's tactical skills, Looma's combat strength, and Attea's political knowledge of Incursine space. That leaves Julie, Ester, and Eunice for the Kraho situation, Ben finished. Technological approach, diplomatic contacts, and analytical capabilities. They looked at each other, and through the resonance, Ben felt Gwen's concern mirroring his own. First time truly separating since the convergence. Testing whether the network could handle distance and division. We'll make it work, Gwen said firmly. We always do. 90 minutes later, 3 teams assembled in the plumber base's primary hangar. The energy in the room crackled with tension. Not hostile exactly, but the kind that came from strong personalities forced into close quarters by cosmic necessity. Kai stood with Looma and Attea. The 3 of them radiating distinct varieties of dangerous competence. Kai's plumber tactical armor had been upgraded overnight with enhanced sensors and weapons systems. Looma wore traditional Tetraman war regalia. 4 arms adorned with ceremonial bracers that were nevertheless functional weapons. Attea had opted for something between imperial dress and combat gear, Managi. To look both regal and ready for violence. I'm not accustomed to taking orders, Attea announced, examining her claws with studied casualness. Empresses generally give them. Then you'll have a learning experience, Kai replied. Her tone flat and professional. I'm senior tactical officer on this mission. You want to survive, you follow my lead. Oh, I like you, Attea purred, her eyes gleaming with predatory interest. So serious. Tell me, do you ever relax, or is that stick permanently lodged? Both of you honor yourselves poorly, Looma interrupted, her booming voice cutting through the tension. We face worthy enemies. Our personal conflicts are insignificant compared to the battle ahead. Save your aggression for those who deserve it. Kai and Attea both turned to look at the Tetraman warrior. Then, surprisingly, Kai nodded. She's right. Personal issues stay groundside. Mission focus only. How disappointingly professional, Attea sighed, but she smiled, sharp and genuine. Very well. I shall endeavor to be a model of military cooperation. Don't expect it to last. Across the hangar, Julie conducted final systems checks with ship while Ester and Eunice reviewed technique. Cal specifications for the Kraho fracture. Julie's ship had been extensively modified, incorporating technology from a dozen species. Ship himself flowed across the hull, his living metal biology allowing for rapid reconfiguration. The fracture is manifesting inside an active lava flow, Ester explained, her crystalline features showing concern. Even for my people, the temperatures are extreme. We'll need specialized shielding. Ship can handle it, Julie said confidently, patting the hull affectionately. Ship hummed in agreement. We've flown through stellar coronas. Lava is practically a cool bath. Eunice processed data streams, her eyes flickering with information only she could see. The fracture's energy signature suggests it's creating duplicates. Echo people from alternate timelines, manifesting in our reality. The psychological implications alone are staggering. We'll handle it, Julie said, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. Between your analytical skills, Ester's local knowledge, and Ship's capabilities, were solid. Ben approached with Gwen and Charmcaster. Hope looked uncomfortable in the military setting, her instincts obviously screaming at her to be anywhere else. She'd changed since her villainous days, traded the predatory confidence for something quieter, more uncertain. Her purple coat was the same, but she wore it differently now. Less armor, more artistic expression. "Never thought I'd be on a mission with plumbers," Charmcaster muttered, her voice carrying that poetic cadence. "The irony tastes like ashes and old mistakes." Quote, "You're not the same person who fought us before," Gwen said, and the generosity in her tone made Charmcaster's eyes widen slightly. "People change. I've seen it. I believe in it." "Your faith may be misplaced," Charmcaster replied. But something in her posture softened. Ben felt the exchange through the resonance, Gwen's genuine compassion meeting Charmcaster's desperate hope for redemption. The network hummed with emotional complexity. 8 women and 1 man all connected, all carrying their own fears and desires into an impossible mission. "Listen up," Ben called out, his voice carrying the authority earned through years of leadership. Everyone's attention focused on him immediately. "We're about to test this anchor network under real conditions. You'll be able to feel each other regardless of distance. But communication will be harder. If anyone's in serious trouble, push that through the resonance. We'll feel it and respond." "What about synchronization?" Eunice asked, her analytical mind already calculating problems. Azimuth's data suggested periodic resonance harmonization to maintain network stability. "Every 4 hours, Gwen said, pulling up a schedule on her holoscreen. "Doesn't need to be in person. But we all need to consciously focus on the connection for approximately 30 seconds. Think of it like recalibrating our quantum entanglement." "Romantic," Attea said dryly. "Practical," Kai corrected. Looma's 4 fists clenched with anticipation. "Enough talk. I am ready for battle." Ben looked around at the 3 teams, feeling through the resonance how each woman was processing the situation in her own way. Gwen's analytical concern, Kai's tactical focus, Julie's nervous determination, Ester's diplomatic calm masking worry, Attea's calculating assessment of allies and resources, Looma's straightforward eagerness for combat, Charmcaster's fear of failing again, Eunice's existential uncertainty about her place in all this. And underneath everything, erected at him from 8 different sources in 8 different ways, something he wasn't ready to name yet. Connection, trust, maybe more. "Stay safe," he said, inadequate words for impossible circumstances. "All of you." Through the resonance, he felt their individual responses. Gwen's warm affection, Kai's firm acknowledgement, Julie's bittersweet nostalgia mixed with current concern, Ester's passionate determination, Attea's amused interest, Looma's respect, Charmcaster's fragile hope, Eunice's analytical appreciation. Then the teams deployed, and for the first time since the convergence, anchor network stretched across distance. Team Alpha. LEDGERDOMAIN. The dimensional portal opened onto a landscape of broken beauty. Legerdemain had always existed partially outside normal physics, a realm where magic was fundamental rather than supplementary, but now it looked like reality itself had shattered and been poorly reassembled. Crystal spires jutted at impossible angles, forests of living mana trees grew upside down from clouds that shouldn't exist, and the sky cycled through colors that had no names in human language. Ben stepped through first, the absolute Omnitrix immediately adding the dimensional coordinates and magical energy signatures. Gwen followed, her mana flaring instinctively as she reconnected with the ambient magical field. Charmcaster came last, and her reaction was visceral. She fell to her knees. Hands pressed against the ground. If it was ground and not solidified magic masquerading as earth. "It's worse than I thought," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I can feel it dying. Every moment, a little more of Legerdemain just stops existing." Gwen crouched beside her, one hand hovering near Charmcaster's shoulder, uncertain if comfort would be welcome. "You've been working to restore it. I've heard reports. The progress you've made is remarkable." Putting bandages on a corpse, Charmcaster said bitterly. "I destroyed this place trying to resurrect my father. Attea corrupted it before that. Now timeline fractures are finishing what we started." Ben felt the resonance pulse with Charmcaster's grief, and behind it, Gwen's unexpected sympathy. "Then we fix it," he said simply. "That's what we're here for." Charmcaster looked up at him, purple eyes searching his face for something. Mockery, judgment. She found only determination. "You make it sound simple." "It's not," Ben acknowledged. But simple and possible aren't the same thing. Come on, show us where the fracture is strongest. They moved through the transformed landscape. Ben found himself fascinated by how differently the two magic users interacted with their environment. Gwen's approach was scholarly. She analyzed the magical energy flows, identified patterns in the chaos, created mental models of how the dimensional structure was fragmenting. Her mana moved with precise control, testing and measuring, gathering data for later synthesis. Charmcaster moved like an artist through a vandalized gallery. She touched corrupted mana streams with gentle sorrow, whispered apologies to damaged magical creatures, and navigated the impossible geometry through intuition rather than analysis. Her magic was powerful but emotional, tied deeply to her psychological state in ways Gwen's disciplined approach avoided. You've both mastered magic, Ben observed, but you couldn't be more different in how you use it. Gwen learned from Verdona and traditional sources, Charmcaster said, not unkindly. Structure, theory, controlled power. I learned from my uncle and desperation. Raw force, instinct, emotional channeling. Different methodologies for different philosophical approaches, Gwen added, her academic nature showing through. Charmcaster treats magic as art. I treat it as science. Both valid, both effective, both limited in their own ways. Which is why you need to work together, Ben said, seeing the tactical implications. Your combined approach might be the only way to address a fracture that's breaking both the magical and physical laws of this dimension. The two women exchanged glances, years of enmity hanging between them. Then Gwen extended her hand. Temporary alliance in the name of saving reality, she offered. Charmcaster stared at the hand like it might be a trap. Then, slowly, she took it. I've made worse deals. Through the resonance, Ben felt the moment crystallize. Not quite friendship, not yet trust, but a willingness to try. It would have to be enough. The fracture revealed itself as they crested a ridge of crystallized mana. Below, in what had once been Legerdemain's capital city, reality was coming apart at the seams. The timeline fracture manifested as a wound in space-time, bleeding energy in colors that hurt to observe. Around it, echo people wandered, duplicates of Legerdemain's inhabitants pulled from alternate timelines, confused and terrified, unable to reconcile memories of different lives. By the ancients, Gwen breathed, her analytical mind struggling to process the scope of destruction. Charmcaster's face went pale. Those people, some of them remember versions of Legerdemain that I destroyed. They're living in timelines where my actions killed them. And now they're here, confronting what I did. Ben felt her spiral toward panic through the resonance. He grabbed her shoulder, forcing her to look at him. Hey, you can break down later. Right now, we need you functional. Can you do that? The directness cut through her spiral. Charmcaster took a shuddering breath, then nodded. I can work. I've gotten good at compartmentalizing guilt. We need to analyze the fracture's structure before attempting repair, Gwen said, already weaving detection spells. Ben, can the absolute Omnitrix read timeline signatures? Ben focused, and information flooded his mind. The Omnitrix could read more than signatures. It could perceive the actual branching structure of collapsing timelines, see the quantum probability chains breaking down. It's not just one fracture. It's dozens, all cascading from a central collapse point. Like a tree falling and taking down everything around it. We need to stabilize the central collapse. Gwen concluded. Everything else is secondary damage. The central point is inside the city, Charmcaster said, her voice steadying as she focused on the problem. Heavily populated. We'll be working around civilians and echo people, all of whom are terrified and confused. Then we evacuate first, Ben decided. Get people clear of the immediate danger zone. Fight whatever's causing the fracture, Gwen added. Because timeline collapses this organized don't happen naturally. Something's feeding it. As if summoned by her words, the fracture pulsed violently. Energy exploded outward, and from the wound in reality, creatures emerged. They looked like they'd been assembled from broken timelines, body parts from different species, existing in multiple time states simultaneously. Their forms constantly shifting between possible configurations. Temporal aberrations, Gwen identified, her voice tight with concern. Creatures born from collapsed timelines. Existing in quantum superposition until observed. Which means? Ben asked, already preparing to transform. Which means they're every possible threat until we perceive them, then they collapse into the worst option. Charmcaster finished grimly. The aberrations moved toward the city, toward the panicking Echo people. Ben's mind raced through tactical options, feeling through the resonance H. Gwen and Charmcaster were already formulating magical responses. Gwen, you handle evacuation and civilian protection, he said, leadership coming naturally now. Charmcaster, you and I engage the aberrations. Keep them away from population centers. You want me on offense? Charmcaster asked, surprise evident. You trust me with that? You're one of the most powerful magic users I've ever fought against, Ben said bluntly. Rather have you fighting with me than against me. Unless you'd prefer crowd control. No, Charmcaster said, and for the first time since arriving, she smiled, sharp and fierce and alive. No, I'm very good at destruction. Let me show you what that looks like when aimed at the right targets. Ben transformed, but not into any alien form he'd used before. The absolute Omnitrix responded to his need, creating a hybrid he hadn't known was possible. He became something between Humungosaur's strength and Jetray's mobility, with Chromastone's energy manipulation woven through it all. The transformation felt perfect, precisely calibrated to the current threat. Charmcaster stared. That's not normal. Nothing about this is normal, Ben replied, his voice resonant with alien harmonics. Let's go. They launched toward the aberrations while Gwen began her evacuation protocols, her mana-forming shields and safe corridors for fleeing civilians. Through the resonance, Ben felt her working, felt the precision and care she brought to protecting people, and was grateful beyond words that she was on his side. The first aberration collapsed into a configuration up. On observation, 30 feet of crystallized time with blade-edged limbs and a mouth that existed in 3 moments simultaneously. Ben hit it with an energy blast that should have shattered crystal, but the creature phased through time, avoiding damage by not being present when the attack landed. They're temporarily unstable, he called to Charmcaster. Then we stabilize them. She wove a spell with frightening speed. Purple energy forming complex geometries. Chronos Fixus. The spell hit the aberration and locked it into the present moment. Suddenly vulnerable, it shrieked and lunged at Charmcaster. Ben intercepted, his hybrid form's strength letting him grapple the creature and throw it away from her. Good teamwork, Charmcaster said, already preparing her next spell. They fell into a rhythm. Charmcaster would lock aberrations into temporal stability, Ben would destroy them with the absolute Omnitrix's enhanced alien abilities. It was brutally effective, and through the resonance, Ben felt Charmcaster's fierce joy in using her power for protection rather than destruction. But more aberrations kept coming. Dozens of them, hundreds, pouring through the fracture like an infection spreading through a wound. There's too many, Ben said, switching to a form with better area control. We need to close the fracture. Can't close it while it's actively producing aberrations, Charmcaster countered, her hands weaving defensive barriers. We need to stop the source. Through the resonance, Ben felt a pulse from the other teams. Kai's group had engaged enemies at the Inkerseen border. Julie's team was dealing with complications on Kraho. All 3 fractures were producing hostile entities. This was coordinated. The chronophage, Ben realized. It's not just collapsing timelines passively. It's actively attacking through the fractures. Then we need to hit back, Charmcaster said, her eyes blazing with purple energy. I know a spell. Extremely dangerous, potentially catastrophic if miscast. But it can damage entities that exist across multiple timelines. What's the catch? Ben asked, because there was always a catch. It requires a power source strong enough to reach across dimensional barriers. Charmcaster explained. More magical energy than I can generate alone. More than Gwen could generate alone. But together, channeled through the absolute Omnitrix as a focus. Ben understood immediately. You need to link your magic through the resonance. Use all 3 of us as a unified casting system. It's intimate, Charmcaster warned. More than the passive resonance. I'll need to touch your mind directly, and Gwen's. You'll feel everything I am. The good and the terrible. Still want to try? Ben looked at the fracture, at the aberrations, at the Echo people fleeing in terror. At Gwen protecting civilians with everything she had. Through the resonance, he felt Charmcaster's fear, not of the spell, but of him seeing who she really was beneath the redemption narrative. Seeing her darkness and rejecting her. I trust you, Ben said simply. Charmcaster's eyes widened. You shouldn't. Probably not, Ben agreed. Doing it anyway. Gwen. Through the resonance, he projected the plan. Felt Gwen's immediate understanding, her analytical mind already calculating magical harmonics and power distribution. She sealed her evacuation barriers and ran toward them, mana blazing. This is insane, Gwen said, sliding to a stop beside them. Your specialty, Charmcaster replied. Actually, that's Ben's specialty, Gwen corrected. I'm the one who makes the insane plans work. Let's do this. The three of them formed a triangle, hands joining. Ben in his hybrid alien form, Gwen burning with pink mana, Charmcaster wreathed in purple arcane power. The absolute Omnitrix pulsed, recognizing the intent, preparing to serve as a focus point. Charmcaster began the spell, and her mind opened to theirs. Ben had experienced the psychic resonance before, but this was different. This was complete connection, no barriers, no privacy. He felt Charmcaster's entire history flood through him, her childhood with Hex, learning magic as easily as breathing. Her father's death, the wound that never healed. Her descent into villainy, fueled by grief and desperation. The terrible things she'd done, justified by increasingly hollow rationalizations. Her moment of clarity, when she realized she'd become everything her father wouldn't have wanted. The long, painful climb toward redemption, knowing she could never truly atone. And underneath everything, an artist's soul that saw beauty in magic. In possibilities, in the potential for people to be better than their worst moments. Gwen experienced it too. Ben felt her surprise and growing understanding. Felt how Charmcaster perceived both of them. Ben is someone who had every reason to hate her but offered trust instead. Gwen is everything she could have been if she'd made different choices. The spell built between them. Powered by three magical sources that should have been incompatible. Gwen's disciplined anodite mana, Charmcaster's emotional arcane power, and the absolute Omnitrix's reality-bending energy, all flowing together. Harmonizing through the psychic resonance. Now, Charmcaster screamed, and they released the spell. It manifested as a spear of pure magical force, existing simultaneously in every timeline where legerdemain existed. The spell pierced through the fracture, reaching beyond it to touch the chronophage's presence on the other side. The entity shrieked, a sound that echoed across dimensions. The aberrations dissolved instantly, their connection to the chronophage severed. The fracture began collapsing, sealing itself as the pressure from the other side vanished. Then the backlash hit. The chronophage was wounded but not defeated. Its counterattack came through the closing fracture, targeting the three of them specifically. Temporal energy lashed out, trying to scatter them across different moments. Different timelines, different possibilities. The absolute Omnitrix anchored Ben, keeping him fixed in the present. But Gwen and Charmcaster had no such protection. Ben felt them slipping, felt the chronophage trying to erase them from this timeline entirely. He refused. The absolute Omnitrix flared with power Ben hadn't known it possessed. Through the resonance, through their joined hands, through the spell connection still linking them, he extended the anchoring effect. Held Gwen and Charmcaster in place through sheer force of will and the device's reality-bending capabilities. The chronophage's attack broke against his determination. The fracture sealed completely. The three of them collapsed to the ground, gasping, still holding hands. That, Gwen said between breaths, was extraordinarily stupid and incredibly effective. My brand, Ben managed. Charmcaster laughed, the sound startled out of her. You saw everything. All of it. The worst things have done. And you held on anyway. Everyone's got darkness, Ben said, pulling himself to sitting position. You're trying to be better. That counts. Through the resonance, he felt Charmcaster's emotion, attitude and shame and hope all tangled together. Felt Gwen's reassessment of her former enemy, seeing her now as a complex person rather than a simple villain. Felt how the shared experience had something fundamental between the three of them. The evacuation barriers dissolved, and civilians began emerging cautiously. The Echo people looked around, confused but no longer in immediate danger. Legerdemain was damaged but stable. The fracture sealed. One down, Gwen said, helping Charmcaster to her feet. How are the others doing? Ben checked through the resonance, feeling for the other two teams. Team Beta. INCURSEAN border. The military transport ship cut through space with plumber efficiency, approaching the Inkerseen border territories where the second fracture had manifested. Inside, 3 warriors prepared for battle in distinctly different ways. Kai checked her weapons with methodical precision. Plasma rifle, backup pistol, combat knife, plumber-issue tactical grenades, A.N.D. her personal favorite, a modified Inkerseen blaster she'd claimed from a previous mission. Each piece of equipment was inspected, tested, and positioned for optimal access. Her armor's systems ran diagnostics, showing green across the board. Looma performed ritual combat preparations, a Tetraman tradition before battle. Forearms moved through precise kata patterns, warming up muscles that could punch through solid steel. She chanted in her native language, words about honor and strength in glorious combat. Her war paint was fresh, red and black geometric patterns that marked her as a war chief. Attea sat on a bench, apparently doing nothing, but Kai's training recognized the signs. The Inkerseen Empress was running political calculations, analyzing scenarios, planning for complications beyond simple combat. Her claws tapped against her throne, portable and insisted upon, in complex rhythms that suggested deep thought. The border installation we're approaching was an Inkerseen military outpost until 3 years ago. Attea said without preamble, "My father built it to stage invasions. I decommissioned it as part of my reforms. Certain factions were displeased." "You think the fracture appearance is political?" Kai asked, immediately grasping the implications. "I think it's convenient," Attea replied, her voice carrying layers of cynicism. "Reality fractures appearing at a site I shut down, requiring my personal attention, pulling me away from the capital during crucial reform negotiations. Either remarkable coincidence or calculated attack." "Both," Looma said, finishing her kata. "Timeline fracture is real. The chronophage is real, but enemies exploit opportunities. This is known." "Exactly." Attea's smile was sharp. "So we're walking into both a cosmic threat and probably a political trap." "I do love efficiency." Kai brought up tactical displays. "The fracture is manifesting inside the outpost's central reactor. Energy signature suggests it's feeding on the reactor's power, growing stronger. We need to shut down the reactor and seal the fracture simultaneously. While dealing with whatever comes through," Looma added eagerly. "And whoever is using this is an opportunity to undermine my authority," Attea finished. "Delightful. I haven't had a proper multi-layered crisis since breakfast." The ship dropped out of FTL, and the outpost appeared on view screens. It was massive, a military installation designed to house thousands of soldiers, bristling with weapons and defenses. According to Attea's files, it should have been completely inactive. Instead, it showed power signatures and life signs. "Someone's occupied the outpost," Kai said, her tactical mind already running scenarios. "Squatters are hostile forces, at an Inkerseen military installation." Attea's voice was dry. "Definitely hostile. Let me guess. My dear cousin Zarkath has decided to make his move. He opposed my reforms most vocally. Can you handle him politically?" Kai asked. "Darling, I can handle him in any number of ways," Attea replied, standing from her portable throne with liquid grace. "The question is whether we need to keep him alive for interrogation or if I can indulge in permanent solutions." "We need information," Kai said firmly. "Capture if possible." "How boring," Attea sighed, but she smiled. "Very well. Professional courtesy to your plumber sensibilities." They docked at the outpost's auxiliary hangar, entering through codes Attea still had access to. The interior was active. Lights on, life support running, systems operational. Kai's tactical sensors picked up dozens of life signs. All Inkerseen, moving with military precision. "Armed forces," Kai reported quietly. "At least 3 platoons, standard Inkerseen military configuration." "My cousin always was predictable," Attea muttered. "He probably thinks this is a brilliant coup attempt." They moved through the corridors in tactical formation. Kai took point with her rifle, Looma covered the rear with her superior strength. And Attea positioned in the middle where she could provide intelligence and leadership. Through the psychic resonance, they felt each other's presence, Kai's tactical focus, Looma's battle-ready anticipation. Attea's calculating assessment of political angles. The first patrol appeared around a corner. 6 Inkerseen soldiers in military armor, weapons raised. They saw Attea and hesitated, uncertain. Their empress, but in the company of aliens, in an installation she'd ordered closed. Attea didn't hesitate. Stand down immediately, by imperial order. The patrol leader's face showed confusion and conflict. Your Majesty, we have orders from my cousin Zarkath, I imagine, Attea interrupted, her voice carrying imperial authority that came from centuries of breeding and years of practice. Who has committed treason by occupying a decommissioned military installation without imperial authorization? You have 5 seconds to decide whether you're loyal. Soldiers following unlawful orders are traitors. Choose quickly. The soldiers exchanged glances. Then, as one, they lowered their weapons and knelt. Your Majesty, the patrol leader said, we were too. You had abandoned the Empire's military strength, that you were dismantling our heritage. Commander Zarkath said he was preserving Inkersine honor. And you believed him without question, Attea said, her voice cold but not cruel. Because it's easier to follow comfortable lies than difficult truths. I'm reforming the Empire, not destroying it. Strength without wisdom is just violence. Now, where is my idiot cousin? Central reactor, the patrol leader answered. He's attempting to harness the energy fracture to power a new weapon system. Kai's tactical assessment crystallized immediately. He's feeding the fracture, making it stronger, destabilizing reality to build a weapon. We need to stop him now. Agreed, Attea said. You 6 will escort us to the reactor. Any resistance we encounter, you will order to stand down. If they refuse, my companions will educate them about the superiority of cooperation. Looma grinned, cracking her 4 knuckles in sequence. I am an excellent teacher. They moved toward the reactor with the patrol as escort. More soldiers appeared, more chose to stand down when confronted with their empress in person. A few tried to resist. Looma handled them with terrifying efficiency. Her forearms moving in coordinated strikes that left opponents unconscious but alive. You fight with great skill, Looma said to Kai as they moved, but you hold back. You could kill easily, yet you choose not to. This is warrior's discipline. Military discipline, Kai corrected. Lethal force is a last resort. Your culture teaches restraint, Looma observed. Mine teaches overwhelming force, yet we both value honor. Different paths to similar destinations. Honor, Attea murmured from between them, is what people claim when they want to justify violence with pretty words. You don't believe in honor? Kai asked, genuinely curious despite their tactical situation. I believe in survival and effectiveness, Attea replied. Honor is a luxury for those who can afford it. I'm trying to give my empire that luxury by ending our cycle of pointless conquest. But most Inkersines can't see past the immediate loss of martial glory. Through the resonance, Kai felt the truth beneath Attea's cynical words, genuine desire to improve her people's lives, frustration with those who opposed progress, and deep loneliness of leadership. For all her sharp edges, Attea was trying to be better than her father, trying to transform an entire culture's values. Kai found herself respecting that more than she'd expected. They reached the reactor chamber. Massive doors sealed the entrance. But Attea's imperial code still functioned. The doors opened onto a scene of chaotic activity. The reactor had been modified extensively. Inkersine technicians worked frantically around a timeline fracture that pulsed at the chamber's center, feeding energy into weapon systems that shouldn't exist. At the controls stood an Inkersine male who resembled Attea enough to confirm his relation, same predatory features. Same calculating eyes, but without her charisma. Zarkath looked like a pale imitation of his cousin. Attea, Zarkath said, not surprised. Almost pleased. I hoped you'd come personally. Saves me the trouble of orchestrating your assassination. Hello, cousin, Attea replied, her voice carrying lethal amusement. Still compensating for your inadequacies with bigger weapons, I see. Some things never change. Mock all you want, Zarkath said, gesturing to the fracture and the weapons it powered. I have reality itself as a power source. This weapon will let the Inkersine Empire reclaim its destiny of conquest. Starting with eliminating you and your weakness. That fracture is destroying the timeline, Kai said, raising her rifle. You're going to see. All-apps reality itself for a weapon you don't even understand. A small price for Inkersine glory, Zarkath replied dismissively. Looma's 4 fists clenched. You have no honor. You risk all existence for personal ambition. This is not glorious, this is cowardice. The Tetraman has opinions, Zarkath sneered. How charming. Soldiers, kill them all. Attea dies last, so she can watch her alien pets perish first. The Inkersine forces in the reactor chamber raised weapons. Approximately 30 soldiers, plus technicians who might fight if pressed. Difficult odds, but Kai had faced worse. Then Attea laughed, genuinely amused. You really don't understand, do you? She stepped forward, utterly fearless despite the weapons aimed at her. These aren't my pets, cousin. They're my allies. Let me show you the difference. Through the resonance, Kai felt Attea's intent. Felt the plan forming without words, coordinated through their psychic connection. Looma sensed it too. The three of them moved as one unit. Looma charged straight forward, drawing fire, her Tetraman physiology shrugging off plasma bolts that would have killed most species. She crashed into the soldiers, formation like a living battering ram. Forearms swinging with devastating precision. Kai moved laterally, using Looma's assault as cover, her tactical training letting her pick optimal firing positions. She shot weapons out of soldiers' hands, disabled the modified weapons systems with precise shots to power couplings, and coordinated her strikes through the resonance with Looma's close combat. Attea went straight for Zarkath. Her personal combat skills often underestimated due to her political role. She moved with lethal grace, dodging his attempts to shoot her, closing distance before he could react. Her claws found his throat, pressing just hard enough to draw blood. Yield, she hissed, or discover why empresses don't need armies to be dangerous. Zarkath froze. Around them, the soldiers saw their leader defeated. Saw Looma standing victorious over unconscious opponents, saw Kai's rifle aimed at the reactor controls. Stand down, Attea commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority. All of you, this is over. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Kai kept hers raised, covering the room while Looma secured prisoners. Through the resonance, Kai felt Attea's satisfaction, not in the violence, but in the victory. In proving her strength on her own terms. The reactor, Kai said urgently. The fracture is still growing. She was right. The timeline fracture pulsed with increasing violence, fed by the reactor's energy. Temporal aberrations began manifesting, similar to those in Legerdemain but configured differently. These looked like weaponized time, fragments of possible wars made solid and hostile. Shut down the reactor, Kai ordered the technicians. Now, they scrambled to comply, but one technician, braver or more foolish than the rest, shook his head. Can't. The fracture has integrated with the reactor's core systems. Shutting down the reactor will cause a feedback loop. The fracture will explode, probably take out half this sector of space. Alternatives, Attea demanded, still holding her cousin at claw point. Drain the fracture's energy faster than the reactor feeds it, the technician suggested. Create a controlled release. Into what? Looma asked, smashing an aberration that got too close. Energy of that magnitude will destroy anything it touches. Through the resonance, Kai felt a pulse from Ben's team. They'd just sealed the Legerdemain fracture, and the experience flooded through the network. She felt how they'd done it. Combined magical and technological power, channeled through the absolute Omnitrix as a focus. We need to link through the resonance, Kai said. Understanding crystallizing. Channel the fracture's energy through our connection to Ben. The absolute Omnitrix can absorb and redirect it. That's insane, Attea said. The energy will travel through us first. We could be torn apart. Probably, Kai agreed, but it's our best option. Looma laughed, the sound booming through the reactor chamber. A glorious risk. I am honored to attempt this impossible feat. Attea looked between them, her calculating mind running scenarios. Then she smiled, sharp and genuine. Well, I did say I wanted efficiency. Let's be efficiently insane. Zarkath, you're about to witness actual imperial strength. She threw her cousin to the soldiers, who caught and restrained him. Then Attea moved to stand with Kai and Looma, the three of them forming a triangle near the fracture. How do we do this? Attea asked. Open yourself to the resonance, Kai said, drawing on her tactical training to stay calm despite the fear she felt. Let the connection strengthen. Then we touch the fracture and channel everything through to Ben. They joined hands. Kai's disciplined grip, Looma's powerful grasp, Attea's sharp claws carefully controlled to avoid injury. The psychic resonance hummed between them, strengthening, expanding. Kai felt Looma's straightforward warrior's mindset, honor and strength and joy in testing herself against impossible odds. Attea's complex political calculations running constantly, her cynicism protecting a surprisingly idealistic core that wanted to save her people despite their flaws. And she felt how both of them perceived her, Kai Green. Professional soldier, disciplined and controlled, using restraint as strength rather than weakness. Now, Kai said, and they reached toward the fracture. Touching it was like grabbing lightning. Energy flooded through them, temporal power, reality itself fragmenting, the weight of collapsing timelines made tangible. It burned through their nervous systems, threatened to scatter them across different moments. Tried to erase them from causality entirely. But they held on. Kai's discipline refused to break. Looma's warrior's determination wouldn't yield. Attea's imperial stubbornness turned pain into fuel. And through the resonance, they channeled everything toward Ben. Across light years of distance, through the psychic network, Ben felt the surge coming. The absolute Omnitrix activated automatically, opening itself to receive the massive energy transfer. Kai felt him stabilize the flow, redirect it, absorb what the Omnitrix could handle and disperse the rest harmlessly across dimensional boundaries. The fracture collapsed, drained of energy, sealing itself. The three women fell to the deck, gasping, alive but thoroughly exhausted. Never doing that again, Attea muttered. Glorious, Looma whispered, grinning despite her obvious pain. Kai just focused on breathing, feeling through the resonance how Ben and his team were checking on them, and further away. How Julie's team was handling their own crisis. Team Gamma. KRAAHO Prime. Ship descended through Kraho's atmosphere with practiced ease, his living metal hull adapting to the extreme temperatures. Below, the lava planet glowed with volcanic activity, beautiful and deadly. Julie monitored systems from the pilot's chair, while Ester and Eunice analyzed the fracture data from the sensor stations. Fracture is manifesting inside Mount Pyrus, Ester explained, her crystalline features showing concern. It's sacred to my people, the largest volcano, where the first Kraho supposedly emerged from the planet's core. Having a reality fracture there is, spiritually problematic. Not to mention physically problematic, Eunice added, her analytical mind processing thermal data. The fracture is interacting with the magma flows, creating unstable lava patterns. Several Kraho settlements are in danger of being overwhelmed. Julie guided ship toward the designated coordinates, her business mind already calculating logistics. We'll need to evacuate civilians while sealing the fracture. Ester, can you coordinate with local authorities? Already done, Ester replied, her diplomatic training showing. I've contacted the Kraho Council. They're preparing evacuation protocols, but they're resistant to outside help. Pride is significant in our culture. Then we'll let them lead and support from behind, Julie suggested. Your people, your protocols. We're just here to help with the cosmic reality fracture part. Through the resonance, Julie felt appreciation from Ester, recognition had Julie understood cultural sensitivity despite her human and business background. Felt Eunice's constant analytical processes, her mind running thousands of calculations simultaneously, and underneath that, her persistent questions about her own existence and purpose. Ship landed near Mount Pyrus's base, extending his hull to create an environmental shelter. The heat outside would kill an unprotected human in seconds. But ship's biology could handle it, and Ester was literally made of lava and crystal. Eunice looked uncertain. I'm not sure how this body handles extreme environments. Was designed to mimic the Omnitrix's functionality, but I've never tested it under these conditions. Only one way to find out, Julie said, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. Ship will protect us if needed. They emerged from the shelter into Kraho's hostile environment. The heat hit Julie like a physical wall despite Ship's protective cocoon around her. Ester moved with easy comfort. Her lava-based biology perfectly adapted to these conditions. Eunice hesitated, then stepped forward, and her body adapted, shifting at a cellular level to handle the temperature. Fascinating, Eunice murmured, watching her own transformation. I really can mimic genetic adaptations. I'm not just imitating, I'm actually changing. Because you're real, Julie said firmly. Not an imitation, a real person with unique abilities. Eunice looked at her, and through the resonance, Julie felt the impact of those words. Felt how Eunice struggled constantly with questions of authenticity and identity. How she feared being just a copy of something rather than someone in her own right. "Thank you," Eunice said quietly. They approached Mount Pyrrhus, where Kraho officials waited. Ester Han. DLED introductions with diplomatic grace, presenting Julie and Eunice as technical specialists assisting with the crisis. The Kraho officials were skeptical but desperate enough to accept help. The fracture had manifested inside the volcano's main magma chamber, visible as a wound in reality that leaked temporal energy into the lava flows. Echo people wandered near the fracture, duplicates of Kraho from alternate timelines. Confused by memories of different volcanic landscapes and different versions of their civilization. The fracture is creating lava patterns that match different geological histories, Eunice analyzed. Her eyes processing data invisible to others. Each timeline has a different version of Kraho Prime's volcanic activity. The overlap is causing instability. "We need to stabilize the magma flows while sealing the fracture," Ester said, already formulating plans. "I can manipulate lava at a large scale, but not while also handling the timeline mechanics. I'll manage the technical side," Eunice offered. "If I can interface with the fracture's energy signature, I might be able to create a containment algorithm. And I'll coordinate logistics," Julie said, falling into her business role naturally. "Evacuation, resource allocation, emergency response. Ship, you're with me for transportation and communication." Ship hummed agreement, already extending sensor tendrils to analyze the situation. They divided responsibilities, working in coordinated effort enhanced by the psychic resonance. Julie felt how Ester manipulated the lava flows with passionate precision, treating it like art as much as science. Felt Eunice's analytical mind breaking down the fracture's structure into pure mathematics, seeking patterns and solutions. The evacuation proceeded efficiently under Julie's coordination. She'd run shipping logistics across 36 star systems. Managing disaster relief was just another supply chain problem. Her crew expertise and ship's capability let them move civilians quickly and safely. But then the fracture pulsed violently, and aberrations began emerging. These configured as living lava, creatures made of superheated magma and crystallized time. Immune to conventional weapons and driven by hostile intent. "We've got problems," Julie called through the resonance. The aberrations flowed toward the evacuation zones. Ester moved to intercept, her own lava-based biology letting her grapple with them directly, but there were too many. Eunice tried to contain them with energy barriers, but her abilities were still developing. Through the resonance, Julie felt the other teams responding to their own crises. Felt Ben's team executing their combined spell on Legerdemain. Felt Kai's team channeling fracture energy through to Ben. And suddenly understood what needed to happen. "Ester, Eunice," Julie shouted, "we need to link through the resonance. Channel the fracture's energy to Ben like the other teams." "I've never done anything like that," Ester said, wrestling with a lava aberration. "Neither have I," Eunice admitted, "and I'm not sure my artificial nature can properly interface with." "You're not artificial," Julie interrupted firmly. "You're real. Your connection through the resonance proves it. Now help me save these people." The three of them came together near the fracture, forming their own triangle. Ship extended himself around them protectively. They joined hands. Julie's human grip, Ester's crystalline touch, Eunice's genetically adaptable grasp. The psychic resonance strengthened between them. Julie felt Ester's passionate nature, her determination to prove her people's worth and her own value beyond diplomacy. Felt Eunice's endless questions and growing certainty that she was more than the sum of her programming. And felt how they both saw her, Julie Yamamoto, entrepreneur and adventurer, using business skills to help people, still carrying torch for Ben but growing into her own person. They reached toward the fracture together. The energy that flooded through them was different from what the other teams experienced. This was creation energy, the power of geological formation, of planets being born and shaped. It burned with creative force rather than destructive power, but it was no less dangerous. Julie felt it threatening to remake her at a molecular level, to transform her into something alien and strange. Felt Ester struggling to maintain her form against power that wanted to reshape crystalline structures. Felt Eunice's genetic code trying to adapt and nearly losing cohesion entirely. But they held together. Julie's business acumen treated it like a negotiation. Give a little, take a little, find the balance point. Ester's passion channeled the creative energy into art rather than chaos. Eunice's analytical mind calculated optimal dispersion patterns. And through the resonance, they pushed everything toward Ben. The absolute Omnitrix absorbed the energy surge from all three teams simultaneously. Across light years and dimensional barriers, Ben served as the focal point, the anchor that held all 8 women together and channeled their combined power into sealing 3 fractures at once. Julie felt the moment the fracture collapsed, felt the aberrations dissolve, felt reality stabilize. Then she felt Ben's presence through the resonance, checking on each of them, making sure they'd survived. She sent back reassurance mixed with affection she hadn't meant to broadcast so clearly. Felt his surprise and warm response. Felt the other women's reactions too, Gwen's protective concern, Kai's professional assessment, Ester's passionate relief, Attea's calculating interest, Looma's respect for survival, Charmcaster's cautious connection, Eunice's gratitude. 8 women, 1 man, all psychically connected. All having just saved 3 timelines simultaneously. We did it, Julie breathed, still holding Ester's and Eunice's hands. Together, Ester agreed, smiling. Real enough, Eunice said quietly. Wonder in her voice. I'm real enough to matter. Ship hummed contentedly, wrapping around all 3 of them in protective affirmation. Convergence. The 3 teams returned to the plumber base within hours of each other, exhausted but victorious. Ben waited in the hangar as ships docked, and the moment all 8 women were in the same location again, the psychic resonance stabilized in a way it hadn't before. They'd operated separately successfully. The anchor network held across distance. And now, reunited, they were stronger than ever. 3 fractures sealed, Kai reported. Defaulting to tactical summary, significant energy expenditure, but no casualties. We learned to channel through the resonance, Gwen added, her analytical mind already processing implications. Coordinate abilities across vast distances using Ben as a focal point. The chronophage felt it, Charmcaster said quietly. When we wounded it through the legerdemain fracture, I felt its attention fix on us. It knows we're a threat now. Good, Attea said with predatory satisfaction. Let it know. Let it fear us. We have grown stronger together, Looma declared. Our next battle will prove this strength. The technical data we gathered will help predict future fractures, Eunice offered, her analytical nature seeking practical applications. And we successfully coordinated large-scale operations across multiple environments, Ester added with diplomatic optimism. Julie looked around at the group, feeling through the resonance how each woman had grown during their separate missions. We work pretty well together, actually. Despite everything. Despite being forced into a psychic network by cosmic necessity. Attea asked dryly. Despite that, Julie confirmed with a slight smile. Ben felt the moment crystallize through the resonance. 8 incredibly different women, brought together by quantum entanglement and impossible circumstances, choosing to work together. Her rather than fight against the connection. It wasn't perfect. Tensions existed, complications remained, but it was real. Before he could speak, alarms blared again. Azimuth's hologram appeared, his expression grave. Ben, we have a situation. The Galactic Council has demanded your presence immediately. All of you. Questions are being raised about the absolute Omnitrix, the anchor network, and the authority you're operating under. Political complications, Kai said, unsurprised. Inevitable ones, Attea agreed. 8 powerful women linked to 1 man psychically. Every government in the galaxy will want to understand, control, or eliminate that. Let them try, Gwen said, mana flaring unconsciously. We will need diplomacy, Ester cautioned. Not just force. I'm good at diplomacy, Charmcaster muttered. Wait, no, I'm terrible at it. That's why I usually just exploded things. We'll handle it together, Ben said firmly. Like we're handling everything else. Together. Through the resonance, he felt their agreement. Felt their trust, growing despite complications. Felt something deeper that none of them were quite ready to acknowledge yet. But underneath all of it, he felt the chronophage's attention. Watching from across dimensional barriers, planning its next move. The reprieve was temporary. The real battle was still coming. Chapter 3. Absolute Resolution. The Galactic Council chamber existed in neutral space. A station built by a dozen civilizations working in rare cooperation. Its architecture defied singular aesthetic. Galvan mathematical precision merged with Ravanagander organic curves. Petropia crystalline structures supporting Piscis volanic fluid dynamics. A physical metaphor for unity through diversity, though Ben suspected the reality was significantly messier than the symbolism. He'd been here before, usually to receive medals or reprimands, sometimes both simultaneously. Never with 8 women psychically bonded to him, their presence humming at the edge of his consciousness like a symphony warming up before the performance. The council chamber itself was circular, rising in tiers so that representatives from hundreds of worlds could observe proceedings. At the center, a platform waited for whoever was being judged, celebrated, or interrogated. Today, that would be them. Lights configured to be visible across the spectrum, species with radically different visual capabilities all needed to see. The air recycled every 90 seconds, filtered for compatibility with the widest possible range of biologies. Ben stood on the central platform, with the 8 women arranged around him. Not behind him. He'd been careful about that. This wasn't about him protecting them or them supporting him from the shadows. They were equals in this, whatever this turned out to be. Gwen stood to his right, wearing formal plumber dress uniform rather than her usual casual combat attire. She looked every inch the master sorceress and decorated officer, her posture perfect. Her expression serene. Through the resonance, Ben felt her mind working overtime, cataloging council members, calculating political angles, preparing arguments for scenarios she'd wargamed during the flight here. Kai flanked his left in full military regalia, medals she'd earned through years of dangerous service displayed across her chest. Her hand rested near her sidearm, unloaded per council protocol. But the gesture was deliberate. A reminder that she was a warrior first, a politician never. Julie had positioned herself slightly forward, her business attire immaculate, every inch the successful entrepreneur. Ship waited in orbit per council rules about sentient vessels, but his absence made Julie stand taller, more independent. She'd negotiated with galactic trade consortiums before. This was just another boardroom with higher stakes. Ester wore Kraho diplomatic robes, formal and elegant, representing her people with quiet pride. She'd been briefed on council politics during her diplomatic training. This was her element, even if the circumstances were unprecedented. Attea had insisted on her portable throne, because of course she had. She sat with imperial arrogance, wearing her crown and royal regalia, every inch an empress. The council could judge her all they wanted, she'd judged them first and found them wanting. Looma stood like a monument, her forearms crossed, warrior paint fresh. She'd refused all suggestions to wear something more diplomatic. This was who she was. The council could accept it or try to make her change. She welcomed either option. Charmcaster had almost refused to come, convinced her past would undermine everything. Gwen had talked her into it with surprising gentleness. Now Hope stood in her purple coat, looking smaller than her power suggested, but present. That counted for something. Eunice completed the circle, wearing a Galvan diplomatic suit she'd constructed from data files. She looked entirely professional, entirely real, and Ben felt through the resonance how much energy she was spending convincing herself of that reality. The council delegates settled into their seats. Hundreds of species, thousands of representatives, all focused on the 9 figures at the chamber's center. Magistrat Attea called the session to order. The Ravanagander official had worked with Ben before, respected him, mostly, but her expression now showed concern rather than friendship. Ben Tennyson, her voice resonated through translation matrices, rendering her words comprehensible to all present species. You stand before the Galactic Council to address questions regarding the absolute Omnitrix, the psychic resonance network connecting you to 8 individuals, and the authority under which you've been operating across multiple sovereign territories. I'm here to answer those questions, Ben replied, his voice steady. Years of diplomatic experience had taught him when to be humble and when to project confidence. This required both. The absolute Omnitrix, a hybrid representative spoke, his voice carrying aristocratic disdain. A device that rewrites reality itself, bonded to a human with a history of, shall we say, impulsive decision-making. Ben felt Gwen's irritation spike through the resonance. Felt Kai's tactical assessment of the hybrid as a hostile actor. Felt Attea's amused contempt for anyone questioning her choice of allies. The absolute Omnitrix bonded to me without my choice, Ben said clearly. I was investigating a dimensional fracture in the null void when I discovered it. Integration was automatic and, according to Azimuth, irreversible without killing me. Convenient, a Pantophage delegate muttered. Factual, Azimuth's hologram materialized at the chamber's edge. I design, ed the absolute Omnitrix 3,000 years ago and sealed it away due to its dangerous capabilities. Ben Tennyson did not seek it out. Reality itself brought them together, a function of the device's purpose. It responds to multiversal crisis by finding the individual most suited to wield it. And these 8, Thyra gestured to the women surrounding Ben. Reports indicate they were pulled across vast distances involuntarily, psychically bonded to Tennyson without consent. This resembles coercion, possibly slavery. The temperature in the chamber dropped several degrees. Ester's lava-based biology flared with heat she couldn't fully suppress. Attea's claws tapped against her throne's armrest in rhythms that promised violence. Looma's 4 fists clenched audibly. No one, Kai said, her voice cutting through the chamber with military precision, coerced me into anything. I'm a plumber special operations commander. I've resisted actual coercion attempts from species that specialize in mental manipulation. The psychic resonance is uncomfortable, invasive, and inconvenient. It is not slavery. I came to Ben Tennyson of my own free will, Ester added, her diplomatic training smoothie ing her tone despite the heat radiating from her crystalline features. The resonance drew me, yes, but I chose to stay. I choose to continue working with this group. That is agency, not coercion. I'm an empress, Attea said flatly. Empresses don't get coerced. We do the coercing. I'm here because my empire's survival depends on stopping the chronophage. Also because Ben Tennyson is one of the EU beings in the galaxy I find remotely tolerable. Those are my reasons. Anyone questioning them is welcome to take it up with my fleet. I literally built an intergalactic shipping company from scratch, Julie added. Her business persona fully activated. You think I don't understand contracts, terms, and consent? I know exactly what I agreed to by staying in this network. I made that choice with full information. We have all chosen this, Looma declared, her voice booming through the chamber. Questioning our honor by suggesting we lack agency is itself dishonorable. Any who wish to chal. NG this may face me in combat to settle the matter. The council chamber erupted in dozens of languages simultaneously. Some delegates argued for restrictions on the absolute Omnitrix. Others defended Ben's track record. Still others raised concerns about the precedent of allowing such powerful individuals to operate without oversight. Through the resonance, Ben felt his anchor points. When had he started thinking of them that way? Processing the political theater differently. Gwen catalogued arguments and counter-arguments. Kai identified allies and hostiles. Julie calculated public relations angles. Ester navigated diplomatic protocols. Attea dismissed most concerns as beneath her notice. Looma evaluated who might actually fight her. Charmcaster felt increasingly anxious about her criminal past being raised. Eunice analyzed the logical structure of each argument for consistency. A Galvan delegate stood, his aged features showing the weight of centuries. The chronophage. Multiple rep. Orts confirm a hostile entity targeting timeline stability. What is the Council's position on this threat? Thyra's expression grew grave. The celestial architects have confirmed the chronophage's existence and the threat it poses. Our scientists have verified timeline fractures appearing across the galaxy. This is not in dispute. Then you need us, Ben said simply. The absolute Omnitrix was assigned specifically to combat timeline collapse. The anchor network, these 8 women, amplifies that capability. We've already sealed 3 major fractures. Without us, those fractures would have cascaded into full timeline collapse. And after the chronophage is defeated, a Vaxasaurian representative asked, what happens to 9 individuals with reality-altering powers and psychic coordination? They could conquer half the galaxy. We could, Attea agreed cheerfully. But it sounds like tedious administrative work, and I already have an empire to reform. Pass. I have a business to run, Julie added. Conquest is bad for trade relations. I have magical studies to complete, Gwen said. I have diplomatic responsibilities, Ester continued. I have honor to maintain, Looma finished. I have redemption to earn. Charmcaster said quietly, and the chamber fell silent at the raw honesty in her voice. I've done terrible things. I've hurt people, destroyed places, pursued power without wisdom. But I'm trying to be better. This, she gestured to the group, is the first time I've been part of something that actually helps instead of harms. So no, I'm not interested in conquest. I'm interested in not being the monster I used to be. The vulnerability in her words, transmitted through the resonance to all of them and displayed in her posture to the council, created a moment of genuine silence. We're not seeking power, Ben said into that silence. We're trying to save reality itself. After that, we go our separate ways, or we work together on our own terms. But that's our choice to make, not the council's. Thyra studied them for a long moment. The council will deliberate. You're dismissed for now. We'll reconvene in 6 hours with our decision. The platform lowered, and the 9 of them left the chamber together. In the corridor outside, away from the council's observation, the tension that had been building released. That went better than expected, Kai assessed. They're afraid of us, Attea said with satisfaction. Good. They should be concerned, Eunice corrected analytically. We represent an unprecedented concentration of power with minimal oversight. From their perspective, we're a logical threat, but we're a necessary threat, Gwen added. They need us more than they fear us. For now, Ben felt the psychic resonance pulse with urgency. Not from any of the 8 women, but from outside, from reality itself, straining against something massive. The absolute Omnitrix blazed with light, projecting holographic warnings directly into his vision. Timeline nexus critical, major convergence imminent, CHRONOPHAGE manifestation in 3, 2, 1. Reality tore open in the corridor. Not a small fracture like before. This was a wound that stretched across dimensions. Bleeding colors that shouldn't exist into normal space. And through it, the chronophage emerged. It had grown. Fed on collapsed timelines, it was now massive enough to fill the corridor. And still extend into other dimensions. Its form constantly shifted. Crystallized time fragments orbiting a core of absolute darkness, with tendrils that existed in multiple moments simultaneously. Alarms screamed throughout the station. The council chamber emptied in controlled panic, delegates fleeing toward emergency transports. Everyone who isn't us, evacuate now, Ben shouted. Then to his anchor points. It's here for us specifically. This is the final confrontation. Through the resonance, he felt their readiness. Fear, yes, they weren't stupid, but also determination. They'd trained for this, fought fractured pieces of it. Now they'd face the entity whole. The chronophage spoke, its voice resonating across multiple timelines simultaneously. I have consumed 17 timelines since our last encounter. Each collapse makes me stronger. You cannot stop what is inevitable. All realities will fall. All timelines will feed my ascension. We stopped you before, Gwen said, mana already blazing around her hands. Incomplete victories against fragments of my power, the chronophage replied. Now you face my totality. And I have learned your weaknesses. Tendrils of crystallized time lashed out, not at Ben, but at the 8 women simultaneously. The attacks came from multiple timeframes at once, hitting them in the past, present, and future simultaneously, bypassing conventional defense. The absolute Omnitrix flared, and Ben felt it happen instinctively. He extended the device's reality anchoring effect through the resonance, holding each woman in the present moment, preventing the chronophage from scattering them across time. But maintaining that protection divided his attention. He couldn't defend them and fight simultaneously. The chronophage recognized this immediately. It pressed the attack, forcing Ben to choose between offense and protection. Stop defending us, Kai shouted, her tactical mind seeing the problem. We can protect ourselves. If I stop, it'll scatter you across different timelines. Ben countered, blocking another temporal attack. Then we anchor each other, Gwen said, understanding crystallizing. The resonance connects us. We don't need you to hold us in place. We can hold each other. Quote, she began weaving a spell, and through the resonance, the other women felt what she was doing. Felt how to contribute their own strengths to it. Ester channel, ed her passionate determination into raw power. Kai added tactical precision to the spell's structure. Julie contributed her and ship's technological interface capabilities. Attea layered in political, cunning that translated to strategic spell components. Looma's warrior spirit became a foundation of strength. Charmcaster's magical expertise refined the entire construct. Eunice's analytical nature optimized every element. The spell completed, and suddenly they were anchored to each other rather than to Ben. A network of 8, supporting each other's existence across timelines, keeping each other real and present. Ben felt the protection he'd been maintaining become unnecessary. Felt the strain release. Felt 8 minds coordinating perfectly through the resonance. Now, he said, transforming, we fight. The absolute Omnitrix cycled through forms faster than thought. He became something he'd never been before, a fusion of every alien in the database, their powers unified rather than separated. Wings and strength and speed and energy projection and intelligence and durability, all at once, all enhanced by the absolute Omnitrix's reality-bending capabilities. He hit the chronophage with everything he had. The entity reeled from the impact but adapted instantly. It phased through time, existing in the moment after Ben's attack landed, rendering the damage retroactively meaningless. Magic, Gwen called out, and she and Charmcaster wove spells in perfect synchronization. Charmcaster's emotional power channeled through Gwen's precise control, creating magical attacks that existed outside normal causality. The chronophage couldn't phase away from them because they hit across all possible timelines simultaneously. The entity shrieked, actually damaged for the first time. Kai coordinated their assault with military precision, her tactical computer interfaced with Eunice's analytical capabilities through the resonance. Concentrated fire on the core. Looma, Attea, physical assault from flanking positions. Julie, ship needs to provide mobile cover and rapid repositioning. Ship materialized from orbit, his living metal form reshaping into combat configuration around Julie. Together they became a high-speed weapons platform, drawing the chronophage's attention while the others positioned for optimal attack angles. Looma charged with a war cry that echoed through dimensions, her 4 fists glowing with temporal energy she'd learned to channel through the resonance. She hit the chronophage's physical manifestation with devastating force, each punch landing in perfect synchronization across multiple timeframes. Attea fought with cold efficiency, her claws finding weak points in the entity's structure, her tactical mind predicting its movements and positioning herself exactly where she needed to be. It's adapting to our patterns, she called out. We need to be unpredictable. Unpredictable is my specialty, Charmcaster said, and unleashed chaos magic. Not destructive chaos, creative chaos. Reality itself became uncertain around the chronophage, making it unable to predict what would happen next. Ester manipulated temperature at a fundamental level, flash, freezing time itself in localized areas. Where her power hit, the chronophage's temporal manipulation failed, locking it into single moments. Eunice analyzed the entity's structure in real time, feeding targeting data to everyone through the resonance. Its core exists partially outside our dimension. We can't destroy it by attacking what we can see. We need to reach the extra-dimensional component. Ben understood immediately. I need to go into the spaces between dimensions. Follow its existence to wherever it keeps its true core. You can't survive outside dimensional space without anchoring, Gwen said, her magical senses reading the danger. Then anchor me, Ben replied. All of you. Through the resonance. Keep me real while I go somewhere that reality doesn't reach. It was insane, reckless, exactly the kind of plan that had gotten Ben in trouble 1,000 times before, except now he had 8 brilliant minds coordinating to make the impossible work. Do it, Kai said, her tact. ICAL assessment confirming it was their best option. The others agreed through the resonance. 8 minds, 8 souls, 8 women who'd chosen to trust him completely. Ben focused on the absolute Omnitrix and pushed himself beyond normal dimensional boundaries. Reality inverted. He existed in the spaces between spaces, where physics was negotiable and causality ran backwards. The chronophage's T-Ru form revealed itself here. Not a creature, but a wound in existence itself, a tear in the fundamental structure of reality that had become self-aware and hungry. It was feeding on collapsed timelines because it was a collapsed timeline. One that had achieved consciousness in its death throes and now sought to drag all other realities into the same void. Through the resonance, Ben felt the 8 women anchoring him, keeping his existence coherent while he navigated impossible spaces. Felt their strengths flowing through him, Gwen's magical knowledge, Kai's tactical precision, Julie's adaptive creativity. Ester's passionate determination, Attea's ruthless cunning, Looma's unshakable courage, Charmcaster's understanding of forbidden knowledge, Eunice's analytical perfection. He reached the chronophage's core and raised the absolute Omnitrix. The device had been designed for this exact moment. To encounter a reality-threatening entity and transform it rather than destroy it. Because destruction just created more collapsed timelines, more fuel for entities like the chronophage. The cycle had to break differently. Ben activated the absolute Omnitrix's true function. Not transformation of himself, but transformation of the target. The chronophage felt what was happening and screamed across every dimension simultaneously. It tried to flee, to scatter itself across timelines, to do anything to escape. But the anchor network held it in place. 8 women, psychically linked, using their quantum entanglement across infinite timelines to pin the entity in this moment, in this confrontation, giving Ben the time he needed. The absolute Omnitrix rewrote the chronophage at a fundamental level. From destroyer to guardian, from consumer to protector, from wound to healer, the transformation rippled across dimensions. Ben felt reality itself shift, felt the timeline nexus stabilizing, felt collapsed timelines beginning to repair rather than continuing to fragment. Then the backlash hit. The chronophage's transformation released energy equal to the death of universes. It exploded outward across every dimensional barrier, every timeline, every possible reality. The blast would scattered the 9 of them across infinite possibilities, erasing them from every timeline simultaneously. But they held together. The anchor network, forged through quantum entanglement and psyche, resonance and shared combat and genuine trust, held firm. They anchored each other to this reality, to this timeline, to this moment. Ben felt himself being pulled back into normal dimensional space. Felt the 8 women pulling him, refusing to let him dissolve into the spaces between. He materialized in the council station's corridor, human again, the absolute Omnitrix dim on his wrist. Around him, the 8 women collapsed, exhausted beyond anything they'd experienced before. And where the chronophage had been, something new existed. The entity that had been a reality devourer now manifested as a guardian. Its form stabilized into something almost beautiful, crystallized time arranged in protective patterns, a core of light instead of darkness, tendrils that reached across dimensions to repair damage rather than cause it. I.am. Knew. It spoke, its voice no longer threatening but wondering. I was destruction. Now I am protection. You're what you choose to be, Ben said, forcing himself to sit up despite his exhaustion. We gave you the capacity to choose. What you do with it is up to you. The transformed chronophage, the timeline guardian now, seemed to consider this. Then it bowed, a gesture of respect that transcended species and dimensions. I will repair what I destroyed. I will protect the timeline nexus. This is my purpose now. Thank you for giving me purpose beyond hunger. Then it faded, not destroyed but dispersed across dimensions, beginning its new role as maintainer of reality rather than destroyer of it. Silence filled the corridor. The 9 of them sat or lay in various states of exhaustion, processing what they'd just accomplished. They'd saved infinite realities, transformed an entity of pure destruction into a force for protection. Proven that he anchor network could function under the most extreme possible circumstances. Through the resonance, Ben felt a wave of emotion from all 8 women. Relief, pride, exhaustion, and underneath everything, directed at him from 8 different sources in 8 different ways, something profound they'd all been avoiding acknowledging. The council chamber doors opened. Thyra emerged with several other delegates, their expressions showing shock and awe. We felt reality stabilizing, Thyra said quietly. The timeline fractures across the galaxy are sealing themselves. What did you do? We transformed the chronophage, Gwen explained, pulling herself to her feet with visible effort. Changed it from a destroyer into a guardian. The threat is neutralized. More than neutralized, Eunice added, her analytical mind already processing the implications. The timeline guardian will actively repair damage to the multiversal structure. Reality is more stable now than it was before the crisis began. The council delegates looked at each other. Several conversations happened in languages Ben didn't speak, but their body language was clear enough. The 9 of them had just demonstrated exactly How the council should be concerned about their power, and exactly why that power was necessary. The Galactic Council's decision is made, Thyra announced formally. You will be granted full operational autonomy in matters relating to multiversal stability. The absolute Omnitrix and the Anchor Network are recognized as necessary tools for reality preservation. However, we require regular reports on your activities and consultation before actions that affect sovereign territories. That's reasonable, Ben said, standing with some effort. Kai moved to support him without being asked, and through the resonance. He felt her pleasure at being needed. We'll coordinate with the council on anything that impacts galactic politics. There will be paperwork, Thyra warned. Extensive paperwork. I run an intergalactic shipping company. Julie said with a slight smile. I eat paperwork for breakfast. I'm an empress, Attea added. I have people who do paperwork. I'll assign them to this. The formal crisis resolved. The delegates returned to the council chamber, leaving the 9 of them in the corridor. We should get back to Earth, Ben said. Debrief, rest, figure out what comes next. Through the resonance, he felt various flavors of agreement. But underneath, he felt something else. The crisis that had forced them together was over. The question of what they were to each other could no longer be avoided. They returned to the plumber base outside Bellwood as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The base had prepared quarters for all of them, recognizing that the Anchor Network needed to stay relatively close for optimal stability. But first, they gathered in the conference room one more time. Not for tactical planning or crisis response. For the conversation they'd all been avoiding. The chronophage is defeated, Kai said, characteristically direct. The Anchor Network is stable. We've been given operational autonomy. So what are we now? Silence greeted her question. 8 women and 1 man, all psychically connected, all having shared the most intense experiences of their lives, all uncertain how to name what existed between them. The resonance is permanent, Eunice said analytically. Azimuth confirmed it. We'll always be connected at some level. Distance makes it quieter, but we'll always feel each other's presence. I'm too comfortable being psychically linked to this many people indefinitely, Ester admitted. It's intimate in ways my culture doesn't have frameworks for. No culture has frameworks for this, Gwen pointed out. We're in completely unprecedented territory. So we make our own frameworks, Julie suggested, her business mind approaching it like a negotiation. Figure out what we want, what we're comfortable with, what boundaries we need. Quote, Attea laughed, the sound sharp. You're all dancing around the obvious. We're connected to Ben specifically because across infinite timelines, we're the ones most entangled with him romantically. The absolute Omnitrix didn't pull random people, it pulled potential lovers. So let's stop pretending this is purely professional. The bluntness made several of them wince, but no one denied it. I was Ben's girlfriend, Julie said quietly. We broke up because our lives went different directions. But the feelings didn't completely disappear. Being connected rough the resonance just made me confront that. I've known Ben since we were children, Kai added. We tried dating. It was complicated. But there's always been something there, even when we weren't together. We're family, Gwen said. And her voice carried complexity. But the resonance has made me feel things that go beyond familial love. I've been trying to deny it, but the psychic connection makes denial impossible. I was his enemy, Charmcaster said, her voice carrying that poetic cadence. I hurt him, fought him, tried to destroy everything he protected. But he offered me trust when I deserved only judgment. That means more than I can express. I find him infuriatingly noble and surprisingly competent, Attea admitted. For a human, I'm attracted to strength, and he's proven his strength repeatedly. Also, psychic bonds are extremely intimate, and intimacy leads to inconvenient feelings. He defeated me in honorable combat, Looma said with simple directness. Then fought beside me as an equal. Among my people, that creates bonds of deep respect. Respect becomes affection. Affection becomes more. He treats me like a person despite my diplomatic position, Ester said softly. He sees past the role to who I actually am. That's rare, precious. I don't know if what I feel is real or programmed, Eunice said, her existential uncertainty showing through. But when I'm with him, I feel more real than I do analyzing data alone. That has to mean something. 8 confessions. 8 different relationships to Ben, 8 different reasons for attraction, 8 different types of love. Ben felt all of it through the resonance. Felt how each woman's feelings were unique, genuine, complex. Felt the weight of responsibility that came with being the center of this network. I care about all of you, he said, his voice steady despite the emotional intensity. Different ways, different depths, but genuinely. When I thought any of you might be hurt during the final battle, I felt terror. When you anchored me in the spaces between dimensions, I felt trust so complete it scared me. This isn't just psychic connection, these are real feelings. So what do we do about it? Kai asked. Traditional relationships don't account for 9 people connected psychically. Traditional relationships also don't account for saving infinite realities together, Julie pointed out. We could go our separate ways, Gwen suggested, though her voice lacked conviction. Try to live normal lives despite the resonance. That sounds miserable, Attea said bluntly. Feeling 8 other people's emotions constantly while pretending we're not connected. No thank you. We could stay together, Ester said hesitantly. Find a way to make this work on our own terms. All 8 of us in a relationship with Ben? Charmcaster asked. That's unconventional doesn't begin to cover it. But is it wrong? Looma challenged. We have all chosen this connection. We have all fought together, bled together, trusted each other with our lives. Why should we deny what we feel because it doesn't match someone else's pattern? There are practical complications, Eunice pointed out. Political implications, social considerations, the logistics of maintaining relationships across different planets and responsibilities. There are complications in any relationship, Julie countered. We're just starting with more of them than usual. Ben listened to them work through it, feeling through the resonance how each woman was processing the situation differently. Some wanted traditional commitment, others wanted freedom with connection, all of them wanted honesty. I can't promise to be everything to all of you, he said finally. I'm not perfect, I make mistakes, but I can promise to be honest, to treat you with respect. To never take any of you for granted. If we're going to do this, whatever this is, it has to be built on communication and genuine care. What about jealousy? Kai asked, always tactical. 8 women, 1 man. Emotions will get complicated. Emotions are already complicated, Gwen said with a slight smile. We'll deal with it like adults. Talk through problems. Set boundaries. Respect each other. I'm an empress, Attea said. I don't share well, but I'm trying to be better than my worst instincts. That extends to this situation. My people have different bonding practices than humans. Ester added. What seems unusual to you is just a different configuration to me. I can adapt. Tetramans value strength, Looma said. All of you have proven your strength. I will not dishonor that by petty jealousy. I've been alone most of my life, Charmcaster admitted. Having one person care feels miraculous. Having 8 people to trust. That's beyond anything I hoped for. I'm still figuring out what I feel, Eunice said honestly. But I know I want to figure it out with all of you rather than alone. Through the resonance, Ben felt their sincerity. Felt how they'd already become important to each other, not just to him. The Anchor Network had created bonds between all 9 of them, different types of relationships forming in different combinations. Then we try, Ben said. We figure this out together. No promises about what it looks like in a year or 10 years. Just commitment to honesty and respect. I want that in writing, Julie said, her business instincts showing. Not because I don't trust you, but because clear terms prevent misunderstandings. I'll draft something, Kai offered. Operational parameters for an unconventional relationship structure. How romantic, Attea said dryly, but she smiled. The conversation continued late into the night, all 9 of them working through practicalities and emotions, boundaries and desires. It wasn't perfect. Several arguments erupted and were resolved. Tears were shed and laughter shared. But through it all, the resonance hummed with growing certainty. They were choosing this, all of them, together. 3 weeks later, the political fallout had mostly settled. Each of the 8 women had returned to their various responsibilities, but the Anchor Network kept them connected regardless of distance. Gwen completed her studies with Verdona and accepted a position as Earth's official magical liaison to the Plumber organization. Her power had grown exponentially, but she wielded it with precision and wisdom. She visited Bellwood regularly, ostensibly for work but really to spend time with Ben and whichever other anchor points were nearby. Kai received promotion to plumber elite status, commanding her own rapid response team for multiversal threats. Her reputation as a tactical genius spread throughout the organization. She coordinated with Ben on missions that required both military precision and reality anchoring capabilities, their professional relationship deepening their personal one. Julie's shipping company exploded in value once word spread that she'd helped save infinite realities. She leveraged her newfound fame into expanding operations across 30 new systems, always ensuring her routes brought her through Bellwood regularly. Ship enjoyed the travel, and Julie enjoyed having legitimate business reasons to see Ben without admitting she just wanted to see him. Ester became the Kraho's primary diplomatic representative to the Galactic Council, her role in stopping the chronophage earning her people respect and recognition. She split her time between council duties and cultural exchange programs on Earth, finding that she genuinely enjoyed both. And if her Earth visits coincided with Ben's schedule, well, that was just efficient planning. Attea's reforms gained traction in the Incrersine Empire after her heroism became public. Opposition. Factions couldn't argue with an empress who'd saved reality itself. She ruled with cunning and growing wisdom, and occasionally took diplomatic vacations to Earth where she could relax away from imperial pressures. That these vacations involved Ben was purely coincidental. Looma returned to her war clan and began teaching a new combat philosophy, one that valued honor alongside compassion, strength alongside wisdom. Her people didn't entirely understand the change, but they respected her enough to listen. She visited Earth monthly for cultural exchange, which mostly meant sparring with Ben and discussing philosophy between matches. Charmcaster, Hope, as she increasingly preferred, made remarkable progress rebuilding Legerdemain. The dimension stabilized under her guidance, and she worked tirelessly to create something beautiful from the ruins she'd helped create. Her redemption wasn't complete, might never be complete, but she was genuinely trying. She visited Earth weekly, often staying with Gwen to study magic together. Their former enmity transforming into cautious friendship. Eunice integrated fully into Galvan's society while maintaining her independence. She worked with Azimuth on understanding the absolute Omnitrix and multiversal mechanics, her unique perspective proving invaluable. She spent time on Earth, collecting data, which gradually became less about research and more about actually experiencing life. Her relationship with existence grew less analytical and more experiential. Ben coordinated it all from Bellwood, the absolute Omnitrix letting him respond to threats anywhere in the galaxy instantly. His reputation evolved from hero to multiversal guardian, but he tried not to let it go to his head. Having 8 women who would call him on his bullshit tea. Her psychic connection helped keep him grounded. Their relationships developed at different paces with different dynamics. Some were more romantic, others more companionate, all of them genuine. Psychic resonance made lying impossible, so they built everything on honesty. It wasn't always easy. Arguments happened. Jealousy flared occasionally. Logistics got complicated when everyone wanted Ben's time simultaneously. But they worked through problems together, all 9 of them learning to communicate across cultural differences and personality clashes. The galaxy watched with fascination and occasional horror as Earth's hero navigated a relationship structure that had no precedent. Some approved, many judged, none could deny its effectiveness. The 9 of them working together had saved reality itself. And gradually, the 9 became more than the sum of their parts. They became a family, unconventional and complex, but genuinely caring. 6 months after the chronophage's transformation, all 9 of them gathered at Ben's house in Bellwood for the first time since the crisis ended. His parents had long since given up trying to understand their son's life and just accepted that he'd saved the universe enough times to do whatever he wanted. They sat in his backyard as the sun set, pizza boxes scattered around because some traditions were worth maintaining. The psychic resonance hummed contentedly, all 9 anchor points in proximity, the network stronger than ever. I've been analyzing the long-term effects of our connection, Eunice said, her analytical nature never fully resting. The anchor network is causing subtle reality stabilization in our vicinity. Wherever we are, timelines are more coherent, dimensional barriers are stronger, reality is more real. So we're not just connected, Gwen said. We're actively improving reality by existing together. Apparently, Eunice confirmed. The universe literally wants us together, Julie laughed. That's either incredibly romantic or deeply weird. Both, Kai said. Definitely both. I find it satisfying, Looma declared. Our bond serves a greater purpose. This is honorable. It's convenient, Attea corrected, but she smiled. Though I suppose even empresses can appreciate romance occasionally. The poets will write about us, Charmcaster said softly. 9 souls connected across timelines, saving infinite realities through love and trust. It's the kind of story I used to think was foolish fantasy. And now you're living it, Ester said warmly. We all are. Ben felt the moment through the resonance, contentment from all 8 women. Each experiencing it differently but genuinely. Felt Gwen's intellectual satisfaction at understanding their purpose. Kai's tactical pleasure at a successful operation. Julie's entrepreneurial joy at a good investment paying off. Esther's passionate happiness at finding her place. Attea's cynical appreciation for something that actually worked. Looma's warrior's pride in bonds proven through combat. Charmcaster's artistic delight in beauty emerging from chaos. Eunice's analytical certainty that she was real because she was loved. And his own feelings, refill. CTED back through 8 different perspectives, amplified and clarified by the resonance until he couldn't deny what he felt. Love. Different types, different intensities, but genuine for all of them. Thank you, he said simply. All of you, for choosing this, for choosing me, for being willing to figure out this impossible situation together. We didn't just choose you, Gwen said, her voice carrying gentle correction. We chose each other, all 9 of us. Through the resonance, Ben felt the truth of it. They'd become important to each other in ways that went beyond their connection to him. Gwen and Charmcaster studying magic together. Kai and Looma sparring and discussing honor. Julie and Ester trading cultural insights. Attea and Eunice having philosophical debates about power and identity. Friendships forming. Respect growing. Genuine care developing between all of them. The Anchor Network wasn't just about romantic love. It was about connection in all its forms. To us, Julie raised her soda can in a toast. The most unconventional family in the multiverse. To saving reality, Kai added. To honor and strength, Looma declared. To redemption and second chances, Charmcaster said quietly. To finding where we belong, Ester offered. To being real, Eunice said with growing confidence. To being better than our worst instincts, Attea contributed with surprising sincerity. To love in all its messy complexity, Gwen finished. They all drank, and Ben felt the resonance pulse with joy, connection, and hope. His plumber communicator chimed. Another dimensional disturbance, 3 systems away. Another crisis requiring the absolute Omnitrix and the Anchor Network. Duty calls, he said, standing. Then we answer, Kai said, already shifting into tactical mode. Together, Gwen added, mana beginning to glow around her hands. The others stood as well, ready to fight, to save reality, to do what they did best. But before they deployed, before they jumped into danger again, Ben took a moment to look at them. 8 incredible women, all different, all brilliant, all choosing to fight alongside him not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Through the resonance, he felt their determination, their courage, their love. Whatever came next. Dimensional threats or political complications or relationship challenges, they'd face it together. All 9 of them. The Anchor Network. The family they'd chosen. Let's go save reality, Ben said with a grin. Again. And they did. Blank. Blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.